Chapter 2247. On one hand, he was afraid that the strange man would go crazy again, and on the other hand, he was afraid that the great guardian's accomplices would come looking for him. He didn't expect that the thing that Lin Yi was worried about would go crazy in the end. After the strange man woke up, he suddenly crawled up from the ground and looked at everything in the cave in a daze. Suddenly, his gaze fell on Lin Yi and revealed an ominous glint. "Who are you? Why are you here?" Lin Yi was slightly startled. The strange man had always thought that he was his disciple. So why did he suddenly not recognize him? However, Lin Yi still said, "Master, it's me. I'm your disciple. You're my disciple?" The strange man was also startled and immediately said, "You're not Leah. Who are you?" "I." Lin Yi's heart tightened. Did the strange man return to normal? Or did he go crazy again? He actually didn't recognize him? "Speak. Who are you? Who the hell are you?" The strange man roared, and his figure flashed as he appeared in front of Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't have the chance to dodge. He grabbed Lin Yi's collar, and his eyes were filled with vigilance and anger. "Tell me, did you kill my disciple? Where is Lear? Tell me." I'm Lear." Lin Yi didn't think that the heaven-class monster would turn on him like that. He smiled bitterly in his heart, but he had no choice but to insist that he was Lear. Otherwise, the monster would kill him with one slap. "You are Leah?" The strange man frowned, and the strength in his hand increased. He directly picked up Lin Yi and was about to throw Lin Yi against the wall. "Quickly tell me, who are you? Or else this old man will throw you to death." "Old mister, don't be agitated." Sun Jingyi was also awakened by this shout. Seeing that the strange man was going to harm Lin Yi, she was startled. She didn't want to say anything and wanted Lin Yi to settle it himself. But seeing that it couldn't be settled, she could only brace herself and walk over to explain for Lin Yi. He is your disciple." The man glared at the dissuasion and was about to retort when he turned to look at Sun Jingyi. He paused, a trace of confusion flashing through his eyes before turning back to Sun Jingyi. You why are you here?" The strange man looked at Sun Jingyi strangely, then turned to look at Lin Yi. "You said he is Leah?" Although Sun Jingyi didn't know why the strange man suddenly became less irritable, it was still a good thing. She quickly nodded and said, "Yes, he is your disciple, Lear." "Oh, that's right." The strange man let go of Lin Yi and nodded. "Since you said you are Lear, then you must be Lear." Phew! Lin Yi breathed a sigh of relief and thought that he was lucky. Although Sun Jingyi was confused, Lin Yi's guess was close to the mark. The strange man probably saw that he didn't look like Li Fu and suddenly became clear-headed. But when he saw Sun Jingyi, he mistakenly thought that she was Sun Loyue's grandma. So he felt that what she said was true and thought that he was Lear. Fortunately, Sun Jingyi was here. Otherwise, it would be hard for Lin Yi to explain. "No, you're not Lear, you're not." The strange man looked at Lin Yi and suddenly shouted. But when he looked at Sun Jingyi, his gaze became doubtful again. "You are Yuer. That's right. But you're not Lear. You're Yuer. You're Leah? You're not. You are. You're not." The strange man's face suddenly turned pale and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. He screamed and covered his head with both hands, as if he was in great pain. "Master, you." Lin Yi wanted to use the silver needles to help him relieve the pain, but the strange man pushed Lin Yi to the side and ran out of the cave while screaming. Soon he disappeared into the night. Sigh. Lin Yi sighed helplessly. It seemed that the strange man's illness was acting up again. Just like last time, he ran away without warning and didn't even say goodbye. Falbert's master was really pitiful. One moment he was normal, the next moment he was crazy. When he was normal, he wasn't normal either. When he was crazy, he was even more confused. Lin Yi, that strange man, why did he suddenly? Sun Jingyi was sleeping before, so she didn't know what happened. "I don't know, but it might be his madness acting up again. Lin Yi smiled bitterly and said, "Last time it was in the cave. When I was sleeping in the middle of the night, he jumped up and ran away. It's the same this time." "Ah, then he just ran away like that?" San Jingyi looked at the iron box in her hand and didn't know what to say. "And he just ran away like that?" Lin Yi nodded. "It seems that when he sleeps at night he isn't very awake, but it's better during the day. During the day, he still treats me as his disciple. Then what should we do now?" San Jingyi said, "Where can he go?" "It's hard to say. It's late at night. If he wants to run, where can we find him?" Lin Yi smiled bitterly. "At most, we can follow the direction he ran in. If we really can't find him, then there's nothing we can do." Last time, Lin Yi waited in the cave for a long time, but the heaven-rank strange man didn't come back. He reckoned that this time, the strange man wouldn't be able to come back. Instead of waiting in the cave, it was better to take the initiative to look for him. The key problem was that Lin Yi still had several questions that he hadn't asked, including Faubert's enemies, the true use and origin of this strange stone, and so on. At present, he could only try to look for him. If he really couldn't find him, then Lin Yi had no other way. And since the strange man wasn't by his side, Lin Yi didn't want to stay in the cave anymore. After all, without the strange man as a bodyguard, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to deal with it if the Great Protector's accomplices came looking for him. Therefore, instead of being in danger here, it was better to take the initiative to look for the strange man and avoid the Great Protector's accomplices. "All right, let's go together." San Jingyi nodded. She had rested enough, and most importantly, she also wanted to ask the strange man about the origin of the treasure in her hands. What San Jingyi wanted to know the most was whether this thing had anything to do with her parents, and why did she have half a treasure map in her hands? Chapter 2248. After doing all this, Lin Yi asked the Skybolt pig, "Can you find the heaven-rank strange man's trail?" "Gigi." The Skybolt pig shook his head, indicating that it was a bit difficult. After all, human cultivators were different from spirit beasts. Moreover, his current level was too low, so it was a bit troublesome to find human cultivators. Even if it was a human cultivator that he had seen before, it would be very difficult for him to find them. Lin Yi saw the pig's answer and didn't press the issue. Together with Jingyi, they chased after the heaven-class monster in the direction he ran off to with the strange man's speed. Lin Yi and San Jingyi naturally wouldn't be able to catch up. Now, Lin Yi's only hope was that the strange man would stop after a while. It would be best if he returned to normal. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to catch up to him even if they chased him all the way. Moreover, if the strange man changed his direction halfway, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to find him. The strange man fled in a slanted direction towards the middle of the mountain range, but it was completely opposite to the direction Lin Yi and San Jingyi had come from. Lin Yi didn't know if there was a path there or if he could go down the mountain, but since the strange man ran in that direction, he could only follow. Lin Yi's guess wasn't wrong. At the same time, at the foot of the Wulong Haut mountain range, two uninvited guests wearing Bagua robes suddenly appeared in the Tagan family's courtyard. Of course, they came and went without a trace. They silently stepped into the Tagan family's courtyard and didn't attract the attention of the other families and forces in the small town. Even if they were standing in the Tagan family's courtyard, they didn't alarm anyone. Until the Tagan family's patrolling servant suddenly discovered that there were two more people in the courtyard. He was immediately shocked. Just as he was about to shout that there were assassins invading, the servant was also an astute person. Seeing that these two people were wearing the same clothes as the family's great protector, he didn't rashly shout. He reckoned that these two people might have some relationship with the great protector. So he carefully asked, "Excuse me, you two are... Take me to Takengo." Among the two, one of them was obviously young, about the same age as the head protector. This man was old 12. As for the other old man with a grave and stern expression, he was the elder brother of the 13th guardian, the 6th guardian. At this moment his heart was very heavy. He did not expect that his younger brother, who had come out to train, would die in a foreign land. Originally, training outside and assuming the position of Tagan family's great protector was a lucrative job. Not only did he not need to be on duty in the sect, he was also worshipped by Tagan family here. His words carried enormous weight, and he did not dare to disobey. This kind of lucrative job used to be the most envious job of these brothers. But first, because Old 13 was the youngest, and second, he was the younger brother of Old 6. Everyone let him do it. But they didn't expect such bad news. The soul jade tablet had shattered. Without a doubt, Old 6 didn't even need to confirm it to know that his younger brother, Old 13th, had died. There was no chance of luck or deception with Master's soul jade tablet. All of them had their own soul jade tablet, which was made by Master using a special method. Even Taganlong had one. Once the soul jade tablet shattered, it meant that the person had died, and there was no possibility of survival. So, no matter how sad they were, it was useless. Old Sixth calmly came to the Tagan family, ready to find Taganlong and Tagangao to confirm what had happened. Who was so powerful to be able to kill Old 13? One had to know that Old 13's strength was very high, and he could even fight against a heaven-rank, middle-stage expert. Yet he actually died here. There must be something fishy about this matter. Excuse me, you two are... The servant had to first confirm the identity of the visitors. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare to rashly bring these two to see the family head. We are your senior brothers of the head protector, Old 12 said. Please. Hearing that they were the senior brothers of the head protector, the servant didn't dare to say anything else and quickly made an inviting gesture. In the Tagan family, although these servants didn't know some of the core secrets of the family, they knew that the head protector's status in the family wasn't any lower than the family head Tagangao. Old 6 and Old 12 nodded, and expressionlessly followed the servant into the inner courtyard. In fact, with their skills, entering and exiting the inner courtyard was as easy as turning over their hands. However, they were too lazy to search every room, so it was more convenient to find a member of the Tagan clan to lead them. They followed the servant to the front of a big house in the inner courtyard. Just as the servant was about to report, Old 12 waved his hand and said, "No need, we can go in ourselves." With that said, Old 12 pushed open the door of the house and walked in with Old 6. The servant followed behind worriedly. Just as he was about to apologize to Tagangao, he heard Tagangao say, "Head Protector, are you back?" "You are Tagangao, right?" Old 12 didn't answer Tagangao's question, but looked at the old man in the room and asked. Tagangao was shocked. He didn't expect that the person who came in wasn't the head protector, but a stranger. It should be known that in the Tagan family, only the head protector could enter and exit his house at will. Therefore, Tagangao didn't think much before, but now he was shocked. He suddenly stood up and turned to look at the door. "Who is it?" However, when Tagangao saw the attire of the two strangers, he suddenly let out a sigh of relief and asked tentatively, "You are the same as the head protector from that place?" 12th brother nodded expressionlessly. Tagangao's heart tightened. He waved his hand at the servant and said, "You can leave. There's nothing for you to do here." Yes, the servant saw that Tagangao seemed to know the people, so he didn't stay any longer. He bowed and turned to leave. After he closed the door, Tagangao welcomed them with a smile. "The two sirs are from that place. This old man didn't go out to greet you. My apologies. However, the head protector has gone out and hasn't returned yet. Do you want this old man to send him a signal?" There was no communication signal in the Woolenhate mountain range, and there was some inexplicable interference, so communication equipment couldn't be used. Therefore, each family had a unique communication code for people who went up the mountain, such as signal flares. Chapter 2249. What? Tagango was shocked by Old 12's words. Is he dead? Didn't that mean he was dead? The head protector was so powerful that he could even fight against a mid-phase disaster practitioner. How could he be dead? How could there be a rival to the head protector in Riolita town? Master has already found out about his death through a special method, Old 12 said. Tell us, what did the head protector do? What did he say and do before he left? You have to tell us word for word. 12th brother had to find out how 13th brother had died. What was the cause of his death? Did anything strange happen here before he died? Yes. Tagango hurriedly invited the two of them to sit down in the living room. After making tea for them personally, he did not dare to hide anything. He started from the time when Tagan Dragon had discovered a small fire attribute fire lion and was about to take it as a contractual spiritual beast. This is what happened. The Adventurers Guild, controlled by my family, publicly recruited adventurers to capture small fire lions, although this didn't sound like it had anything to do with the head protector's death. Tagango had to have his reasons for starting from here. So, Old 6 and Old 12 weren't in a rush. They sat there and listened carefully to Tagango's story. When he heard that it was extremely dangerous up the mountain, and that the fire lion almost took Tagango's life, Old 12 couldn't help but frown. Tagango, don't you know how important Tagango's safety is? Even Master values him so much. How could he let him do something so dangerous? If something goes wrong, can your Tagan family bear the responsibility? I'm sorry. Cold sweat appeared on Tagango's forehead. He didn't know much about that place, but if that place could turn House Tagan from a third-rate house to a top house in Riolita, then it could also turn House Tagan into a worthless house. He quickly explained, I didn't think it would be this dangerous, and the timing was all planned out. Who knew that Zhang Naipeo would help that little fire lion in the dark, delaying the time? That's why things ended up like this. All right, Old 12, since Tagango is fine, let's not pursue this matter anymore. Just be careful in the future. 6th brother waved his hand and interrupted Tagango. The most important thing now is to find out the cause of 13th brother's death. 6th senior brother is right. 12 nodded and turned to Tagango. You're saying that Zhang Naipeo hid his strength, and that his wife looks very similar to the woman we're looking for? Yes. Tagan nodded and said, It is precisely because of this that the great protector wanted to go up the mountain alone after hearing about this matter. Could it be that those people are back? Old 12 looked at Old 6 with a questioning look. 6th brother nodded and said, How about this? Call Tagan Long over and have him tell us the details of what happened in detail. Yes, sirs, please wait for a moment. I will personally call Tagan Long over. Tagango quickly said. After saying that, Tagan Gao quickly left the house. When only Old 6 and Old 12 were left in the room, Old 12 said, 6th senior brother, what do you think about this? Your guess should be correct. It should be that Sek's successor has returned. However, I don't know how he is related to the two people we are looking for. Is he their son, or did they come in disguise? 6th brother hesitated for a moment before speculating. That's right. There are only these two possibilities. Old 12 said, but an Earth class mid-phase, a practitioner who hasn't even stepped into Golden class, without the help of the Great Fire Lion. Even the 5th protector could be easily taken care of. How could they fight against Old 13? This is what I'm curious about as well. That's why I want Tagan Long to come and tell us some of the details, so that we can make the correct judgment. Old 6 said, Could it be that the Great Fire Lion helped? Old 12 frowned and asked. No way. Old 6 shook his head. That Great Fire Lion has some history with this sect, but he wouldn't interfere with human practitioners' matters. Spirit beasts, other than contracted spirit beasts, usually participate in human battles. Other spirit beasts aren't easily controlled by humans. Plus, this Great Fire Lion didn't do anything when we attacked this sect. So why would he do something now? During the siege of that sect, the 12th and 13th brothers hadn't reached the heaven rank yet, so they naturally didn't participate. Even the sixth brother was just a bystander, but he knew more secrets than the 12th brother. That's weird. Could it be that Zhang Naipeo helped the little fire lion secretly, and that's why the great fire lion acted? Old 12 was confused as well. It's hard to say. Let's wait for Tag On Long and see what he has to say. Old 6 said. It didn't take long before Tag and Gao returned. Tag and Long followed behind him and quickly walked in. When he saw the two people in the room, he quickly cupped his fists and saluted. Tag and Long greets the two Uncle Masters. Dispense with the formalities, Tag On Long. You should know why we called you here, right? Old 12 asked. Tell us in detail what happened before the great protector left. Yes. Tag On Long hurriedly nodded and did not dare to hide anything. He recounted everything, including some details that Tag On Long did not notice. In the end, he carefully asked, Uncle Master, my master, he really, yes, the great protector is dead. Old 12 sighed. It must be those two. Uncle Master, you must avenge my master. Tag On Long said in grief when he heard the news. Whether it was them or not, it's hard to say for now, but this revenge must be taken. Now, tell me the moves that Zhang Naipeo used in detail. Old 6 said suddenly, Zhang Naipeo's moves. Tag On Long paused. He didn't pay much attention to Lin Yi's moves before, and now that he thought about it carefully, he said, I remember that he had a move, and I think he shouted something like Frenzy Fist, Frenzy Fist. Old 6's eyes flashed fiercely. It really was the Frenzy Fist. Others might not know, but he knew that the Frenzy Fist was the secret technique of this sect, and since that Zhang Naipeo was using the Frenzy Fist, he had to be from this sect. Chapter 2250. 6th Senior Brother, what's wrong? Is there something wrong with this Frenzy Fist? Old 12 quickly asked. This Frenzy Fist is a martial technique of that sect. Now, we can basically confirm that these two people must have come for the treasure. 13th brother must have guessed this from the woman's appearance. So he went up the mountain to intercept the treasure. In the end, for some unknown reason, he met with an accident. 6th brother analyzed. So that's how it is. Old 12 said in grief. 6th Senior Brother, are we going up the mountain now to find those two people? We must get rid of them with our own hands and avenge Old 13. It's already dark now. Where are you going to find them? And so much time has passed. Even if we find the location of the incident based on Old 13's soul aura, those two people would have already run away. Old 6 waved his hand and said, Tonight we will bring some people to guard the foot of the mountain. Tomorrow morning I will go up the mountain and you will continue to guard. If those two people go down the mountain, you will be responsible for intercepting them and sending a signal flare. If I meet them on the mountain, I will also send a signal flare. All right. Old 12 nodded in agreement. Then let's go now. Following Tag and Gao's order, all the experts in the family left. Besides the old ancestor who was in seclusion, Tagansha, Taganmo, the 4 protectors, and Tag On Long followed Old 6 and Old 12 and hurried all the way to the foot of the Wulong Haut mountain range. The other families patrolling at the foot of the mountain range felt a little strange. They didn't know what the Tagan family was doing with such a large force, but no one asked. As long as it didn't interfere with their family's interests, they couldn't be bothered to care. If something happened to the Tagan family, and he asked them to send some strong men to help, then the gains would not make up for the losses. The 3 big families and 2 big gangs seemed united on the surface, so the Tagan family could do whatever they wanted. Fortunately, the Tagan family was only stationed at the foot of the mountain and didn't make any other moves. On the Wulong Haut mountain range, Lin Yi and son, Jingyi, followed the direction the heaven rank freak ran in, but they didn't find any traces of him. In front of us is the middle mountain range. We have already left the range of the upper mountain range. Looking at the dense forest in front, Lin Yi knew that they had arrived at the middle mountain range. The biggest difference between the middle mountain range and the upper mountain range was this dense forest. The upper part of the mountain range was filled with jagged rocks, but there weren't many trees. As for the middle part of the mountain range, it was filled with dense jungles. The dividing line was very obvious and could be seen at a glance. The middle mountain range was full of rugged rocks, but there weren't many trees. The middle mountain range was full of trees. After all, there were very few places to hide in the upper mountain range. There was no dense forest to with. They could easily. However, it was different in the middle mountain range. The middle mountain range was full of dense forest. The concealment here was very strong. Even if they stood at the highest point of the mountain range, it was impossible to see the situation in the middle mountain range from the main hall. Therefore, Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi entering the middle mountain range was equivalent to having an extra layer of protection. But it was different in the middle mountain range. The middle mountain range was full of dense forest. The concealment here was very strong. Even if they stood at the highest point of the mountain range, it was impossible to see the situation in the middle mountain range from the position of the main hall. Therefore, when Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi entered the middle mountain range, it was equivalent to having an extra layer of protection. We didn't go back the way we came. Is there a problem? Sun Jingyi looked at the forest around her. There was no road in the middle mountain range nearby. Obviously, people didn't come here often. It could even be said that no one had come here before. With the current situation, it's impossible to go back. Lin Yi shrugged and said, "The head protector is dead. Tagan House or his people will find us sooner or later. At that time, we'll have to walk the path we took to get here. It's too dangerous." That's true. After hearing Lin Yi's words, Sun Jingyi's expression became serious. Your weird master left. There's no one to help us. How are we going to go down the mountain? Will the Tagan family stop us at the foot of the mountain? I'm not sure. Lin Yi shook his head. To be honest, this was what Lin Yi was worried about. Although it wasn't impossible to go down the mountain from a place with no road, it was too dangerous. The middle mountain range. The big fire lion said that the middle mountain range didn't only have the big fire lion. There were other spirit beasts. Although the skybolt pig was a mystic late phase peak spirit beast, the big fire lion strength had already reached heaven class. Only a heaven class spirit beast could fight it. Otherwise, the spirit beasts had a strict hierarchy. If they weren't of the same level, how could they fight each other? This also proved that the big fire lion's opponent was also a heaven-class spirit beast. The skybolt pig couldn't do anything and couldn't suppress the opponent. If they met, it would be really troublesome. They could only hope that they would mind their own business. Thinking about it, spirit beasts were all highly intelligent. Without any benefits, they wouldn't fight with Lin Yi for no reason. As long as they were reasonable, there shouldn't be a problem. But what Lin Yi was worried about was the lower mountain range. Although there weren't any spirit beasts there were some spirit beasts and poisonous insects. The skybolt pig didn't have the murderous aura of General Weiwu. It was hard to say if it could suppress these spirit beasts. Lin Yi was fine. He was just afraid that Sun Jingyi would be in danger. If a spirit beast appeared and caught Lin Yi off guard, it would be a very troublesome thing. This Wulong Haut mountain range, even the Tagan family's people didn't dare to casually go up the mountain from other routes. Presumably, it should be very dangerous. So, there are wolves in front and tigers behind. It's a bit hard to choose. Lin Yi smiled and said, "If you follow me, it shouldn't be a big problem. It's better to encounter spirit beasts than the Tagan family." After all, it wasn't a life and death feud with spirit beasts. But it was hard to say with the Tagan family, especially if they wanted to take revenge for the Great Guardian. They would invite an expert and wouldn't let Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi go. By that time, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to deal with them. Lin Yi couldn't even deal with the Great Guardian. With the help of the heaven-rank strange man, they barely killed it. If there were a few more, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to go back. And Sun Jingyi didn't have any idea, so she just listened to Lin Yi. The skybolt pig opened the way in front, while Lin, Yi, and Sun, Jingyi, carefully followed behind. The purpose of this trip was basically achieved. The enemy was also killed. If Lin, Yi, and Sun Jingyi could go down the mountain from other routes and leave Ruilita town without being noticed, it would be the perfect ending. Chapter 2251. The two of them walked and stopped from time to time. Soon it was noon of the second day. The journey was smooth and they didn't encounter any danger or trouble. But the more it was so, the more Lin Yi didn't dare to be careless. The reason why there weren't any ferocious beasts in the middle of the mountain range was because this was the territory of the true spirit beasts. And in this area there was no danger. That was the real danger. The two of them might have already stepped into the territory of another race of spirit beasts. Only in this way could this place be so safe without any ferocious beasts. Lin Yi planned to take a break first and let Sun Jingyi eat something while he observed the road. At the same time, on the side of the Tagan family, Old Six had already arrived at the top of the mountain range. Following Old 13's soul aura, he searched for him. When he saw the destroyed main hall, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. He was very clear about what this main hall looked like. Although the main hall was already damaged during the encirclement of this sect, it definitely wasn't this serious. And looking at the traces of flying sand and stones on the ground, they were all newly formed. In other words, there should have been a great battle here not long ago, and this main hall was completely created in the battle. Old Six's heart suddenly tightened. What level of expert could cause this damage? It was at least a battle between experts with the strength of the peak late stage of heaven rank. Old 13 couldn't cause such huge damage, and his strength wasn't enough to destroy it. Could it be that an expert with the strength of the peak late stage of heaven rank participated in the battle? Old Six's heart tightened. He suddenly thought of the old madman who escaped that year. It was said that he appeared several times in the mountain range. But Old 13 and he didn't interfere with each other and didn't fight. At that time, Master's opinion was to keep him alive for now. Maybe they could find clues about the treasure from him. Could it be that the old madman joined the battle? Old Six frowned. If he had known earlier, he would have sent a few more people to kill that old madman. At least Old 13 wouldn't have lost his life, although Old 13 was Old Six's younger brother. In the sect, the relationship between senior and junior brothers was similar to that between real brothers. So when Old 13 died, his feelings were similar to Old 12's, just that he was a little sadder. After observing the surroundings for a long time, Old Six didn't find any true chi fluctuation. After confirming that there shouldn't be any experts lying in ambush nearby, he quickly walked into the main hall. When he entered the main hall, the first thing that came into view was a huge, super big hole. This huge pit made Old Six sigh again. Was this the work of a peak late stage heaven rank master? Even he couldn't do it, right? Perhaps only eldest senior brother, second senior brother, and master would be able to activate such a powerful move, right? The scene in front of him made Old Six feel a chill in his heart. Before, he thought that he was an expert at the peak of heaven rank late phase, so he should be more than enough to deal with this matter. He felt that he should be able to deal with it by relying on his superior martial skills and strength. But now he felt that things had gone beyond his imagination. It was a little tricky. Even among peak late-stage heaven rank experts, there was a difference in strength. Some were infinitely close to the level of heavenly Tao, while others had just stepped into it. Moreover, it had a lot to do with everyone's aptitude, cultivation methods, martial skills, and weapons. Although Old Six was an expert at the peak of heaven rank late phase, among the disciples in the sect, he could only be ranked 6th. The 5 experts at the peak of heaven rank late phase were all stronger than him. Worried about Old 13's situation, Old Six could only suppress the shock in his heart for the time being and continue to walk forward. But not far away, when he saw the situation in the big pit, even though he had seen many killing scenes, He couldn't help but feel numb. In the big pit, Old 13 died with his eyes wide open. His chin was already mutilated, his limbs were gone, and there was a big bloody hole in his chest and abdomen. It was as terrifying as it could be, as if he had been blown up by a bomb. This tragic way of death made Old 6's heart tremble. Could it be that the other party used some kind of nuclear weapon? It had to be known that ordinary bombs and grenades had little effect on heaven rank experts. Even if it was rocket launchers and armor-piercing bullets, they would only be injured if they weren't careful. But to be able to blow up a heaven rank expert, it must be something like a missile or a nuclear weapon. But if such a weapon was really used, would the Wulong Haut mountain range still exist? Moreover, although Real Town was a private armed town, and the small country above wouldn't interfere, even if it was the Tegan family, it wouldn't be easy for them to get their hands on atomic bombs and missiles. It was almost impossible. Therefore, in his heart, he was still inclined to believe that it was done by an expert. But what kind of expert was this? Originally, Old 6 came here with the idea of avenging his brother, but now his desire for revenge was no longer so urgent. He had to find out who had such great power and caused such huge damage. This person was simply a formidable enemy to the sect. All these years, the sect had been planning this big thing, and it was about to come true. They couldn't afford to make any mistakes at this time. With that thought, Old 6 first put Old 13's body into the bag. As for the incomplete body parts, there was no way to find them anymore. At the moment, only Old 13's body could be seen. He really wanted to know the cause of Old 13's death, but he was more concerned about his own safety and the safety of Old 12 and the others at the foot of the mountain. He quickly took out a piece of paper and wrote on it, "The enemy is too strong. If there are strong people coming down the mountain, don't act rashly. Mainly focus on Zhang Naipeo and that guy, but if there are strong people with them, don't be rash." Once he was done, Sixth Brother took out a bird that looked like a carrier pigeon from his bosom. However, this was not a carrier pigeon, but an ancient spiritual beast that was used to send messages to various sects in ancient times. Whether it was in terms of intelligence or speed, a carrier pigeon was far superior to a carrier pigeon. However, there weren't many of them left in the sect, and this time, Old 6 brought it out so that he could send the news back to his master. He folded the paper and tied it to the leg of the ancient bird. Old 6 let go and ordered, Go find Old 12. Chapter 2252. Since the enemy was stronger than him, he naturally wouldn't show his face in public. He decided to follow the investigation and try his best to avoid a direct confrontation with the enemy. Revenge was definitely necessary, but it might not be this time. He had to figure out who the enemy was first. If he wasn't a match for them, he could let his master, Big Senior Brother, and the others take action. If not, there were still those elders, martial uncles and martial uncles. They could always take revenge. Thinking of this, Old 6 hid in the Wulong Haut mountain range and prepared to secretly look for clues about the enemy at the foot of the mountain. When Old 12 received the news from the ancient bird, his face couldn't help but change. He had the same thought as Old 6. No matter how powerful the enemy was, with Old 6, a peak late-stage heaven rank expert, wouldn't it be easy to capture them? But Old 6 said that the enemy was very powerful, so he naturally didn't dare to be negligent. He rubbed the information in his hand and turned it into ashes. Old 12 said to Tagango, "Pay close attention to people going down the mountain. If there's anyone suspicious, immediately report to me. Don't make a decision on your own." Yes, Tagango nodded in response. On the Wulong Haut mountain range, it wasn't only Lin Yi and Old 12. There were many other adventurers going up the mountain. Some of these adventurers were from the Adventurers Guild. Some belonged to other families and gangs, and some were herb gatherers from small forces. There were also normal adventurers going up the mountain every day. These Tagango family couldn't stop them. Although Old 6 and Old 12, these two powerful experts, were there, they obviously didn't want to expose their strength. Tagango family also deliberately kept a low profile, so they naturally didn't stop them. Fortunately, the two people they were looking for were a man and a woman. The man was heroic and the woman was beautiful. The servants and guards of the Tagango family who were guarding the foot of the mountain had a portrait in their hands. Although the portrait wasn't very similar, at least they could be recognized at a glance. On the mountain, after Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi took a short rest, they got up and continued to move forward in the middle of the mountain range. Suddenly, the jade pendant on Lin Yi's chest suddenly sent a sharp warning signal. Skybolt Pig also seemed to have noticed something wrong and started yelling loudly, but it was all too late. A huge net fell from the sky and covered Lin Yi, Sun Jingyi, and Skybolt Pig. Lin Yi subconsciously wanted to lift the net, but it was as if the net was alive. It quickly closed in and tied him, Sun Jingyi, and the Skybolt Pig up like rice dumplings. In Songshan, during the few days that Lin Yi was away, something's happened quietly. Hidden Right family. Yu Coiling Tiger solemnly handed the information he got from Lin Yi to Yu Jintian. Yu Jintian did not dare to neglect it and quickly took it. Are you sure this time that it's really an alchemist's notes? Uncle, I'm sure. It's the alchemist's notes. It's not the kind of thing that deceives people. I looked through it and benefited a lot. Right Pan, who nodded. That's good. Yu Coiling Tiger breathed a sigh of relief. We were tricked by Lin Yi last time. This time it's our turn. We used a useless medicine cauldron to exchange for Boss Bai's alchemist notes. This business is worth it. Wait for me. I'll present it to your grandfather now. Yes. Right Pan, who nodded and sat aside, waiting for how his grandfather would reward him later. Yu Jintian did not stop. He directly took the alchemist's notes that Yu Coiling Tiger handed over and went to Old Master Yu's room. Jintian, have you seen it? How is it? Old Master Yu asked. I didn't have time to look at it before it was presented to me immediately. Yu Jintian did not dare to neglect. Although he wanted to see it, he also knew that Old Master Yu was waiting. How could he dare to waste time? However, he added, Right Pan, who took a few glances and said that it was indeed an alchemist's notes. I benefited a lot. Old Master Yu nodded and took the alchemist's notes from Yu Jintian. He flipped through it with a smile. However, after reading a few pages, Old Master Yu's face became ugly. As he flipped through more pages, Old Master Yu's face became gloomier and gloomier. In the end, it became extremely ugly. Father Yu, what's wrong? Is there a problem with this alchemist's notes? Yu Zhentian also saw the change in his father's face and asked curiously, This alchemist's notes. It's the alchemist's notes from the Heavenly Elixir sect. Old Master Yu said with certainty after flipping through a few more pages. What? Yu Zhentian frowned. You said this alchemist's notes is from the Heavenly Elixir sect? Yes, come with me. Old Master, you seem to want to confirm it for the last time. He stood up and walked to his study. Yu Jintian did not dare to neglect and carefully followed behind Old Master Yu. They entered Old Master Yu's study together. This was a restricted area for family members. This study collected a lot of precious elixir recipes and alchemy materials, as well as some medicinal cauldrons, precious medicinal herbs, etc. It was almost a small treasure house inside. It hid all the essence of the Yu family. Even Yu Jintian, the young master heir of the Yu family, could not step into this place without Old Master Yu's permission. After entering the study, Yu Jintian did not look around. He just stood at the side with his head down. Although he was curious, he did not show it. Old Master, you quickly walked to the front of a bookshelf and took a thread-bound book from it. A few big words were clearly written on it. Heavenly Elixir Sect's Alchemist Notes. After taking it out, Old Master, you couldn't wait to look at it and compare it. Although he was mentally prepared, Old Master Yu's face was still extremely ugly when he saw the two identical alchemist's notes at this time. It was as if his mother had died. Of course, his mother had died a long time ago. It should be like his mother had died again. It's exactly the same. It's exactly the same as the alchemist's notes from the Heavenly Elixir sect. Old Master Yu put the thread-bound book back and threw the copy in his hand on the desk. He gritted his teeth in anger. Lin Yi, this little b*** starred. I was tricked by him again. This. Although Yu Zhentian did not read the contents of the alchemist's notes, since Old Master Yu said it was the same, then it must be the same. He could only smile bitterly. The Yu family was tricked by Lin Yi again. However, who could be blamed for this? Chapter 2253. However, he never expected that Lin Yi would casually exchange this precious information as trash. In theory, the alchemist's notes from Heavenly Elixir sect were worth the things that were exchanged. It was just a few sets of materials and a broken medicine cauldron that couldn't be repaired. It was already very cheap to exchange for this information. One had to know that the Yu family had worked hard for Heavenly Elixir sect for so many years and paid a huge price to exchange for this information. The key problem was that the hidden Yu family already had this information, so it was naturally worthless. This thing could be replicated. It was precious at the beginning, but later on, it was no different from waste paper. Forget it. You and Coiling Tiger don't know this information. I don't blame you. Old Master Yu waved his hand and sighed. Let's go and ask Coiling Tiger what did Lin Yi say this time. Yes, father. While Yu Zhentian breathed a sigh of relief, he secretly regretted that the information that was exchanged this time was already in his family's possession. As for the broken medicine cauldron and the few sets of materials, the Yu family didn't care much about it. They were just a little sullen. Old Master Yu and Yu Zhentian walked out. Yu Coiling Tiger still didn't know what was going on. He thought that he could get a reward. Just as he got up and wanted to speak, he saw his grandfather and uncle with a gloomy face. He was suddenly a little inexplicable. Coiling Tiger, this time we were cheated by Lin Yi again. Yu Zhentian saw Yu Coiling Tiger's stunned expression and explained. Ah, what? Cheated by Lin Yi again? It can't be, right? Yu Coiling Tiger was a little inexplicable after listening. I clearly checked this information. It is indeed in Alchemist's notes, and it is a very useful notes. I just casually read a few pages, and I benefited a lot. How could I be cheated? There is no problem with this Alchemist's notes. It is indeed a good note, but the key is that our family already has this note. Yu Zhentian smiled bitterly. Even if Yu Coiling Tiger checked it carefully and exchanged it with Lin Yi, he wouldn't have found any problems, right? After all, Yu Coiling Tiger hadn't read this information. Yu Zhentian didn't even read much. He would probably make the same mistake. What? Our family already has one? Right? Coiling Tiger blurted out in shock. This alchemist's notes are actually written by an alchemist from the Heavenly Elixir sect. Old Man Yu sighed, waved his hand, and said, It's just strange. How did it end up in Lin Yi's hands? Tell me in detail. What did you say to Lin Yi? Don't miss out on any details. Yes. Yu Panhu's heart was in awe. He quickly and carefully recalled the conversation with Lin Yi. He repeated it to Old Man Yu without missing a word. The situation at the time was like this. Elder Yu listened to Yu Panhu's narration and frowned. After a while, he said, This Lin Yi is really scheming. I reckon that Lin Yi must have known that this is the Heavenly Elixir sect's alchemist experience notes. That's why he gave it to that Han Jingjing to read, and then changed it to you. Otherwise, if it's really Boss Bai's alchemist's notes, even if he exchanged it to you, he must be secretive. It's impossible to let a third person know or see it. Yu Panhu thought about it carefully at this time. Indeed, this thing was so important. Without Boss Bai's permission, would Lin Yi let Han Jingjing see it? The only explanation was that Lin Yi knew that this information was actually the Heavenly Elixir sect's alchemist's notes not Boss Bai's legacy, so he gave it to Han Jingjing. What a joke! She thought that she had something on Lin Yi, forcing him to give her the information. She was too stupid. However, things were often like this. He couldn't see it clearly at the time, but he regretted it afterwards. Grandpa, Right Coiling Tiger's face was a little red. He didn't expect to get back a piece of trash. Did he still want to claim credit? This is not your fault. It's Lin Yi who is too cunning. Old master, you said. Fortunately, we didn't lose much this time. It's not as big as the first time. A broken antique medicine cauldron that can't be repaired and some alchemy materials. These things that can be bought with money are nothing to us. When Right Coiling Tiger heard Old Master you say this, he was relieved, but he didn't dare to claim credit anymore. How about this, after you return to school, continue to pay attention to Lin Yi's movements, and see if Boss Bai continues to give him information. If he gives him information again, you still find a way to exchange it. Old Master, you said, after thinking for a while. Exchange again? This time not only Right Coiling Tiger, but Right Jintian also asked in surprise. Of course. Old Master, you nodded and said, of course, the premise is that we use these things that are not of much use to our family to exchange with him. Things like trash, materials, and the like good medicine cauldrons and finished elixirs. Don't use them to exchange. But what if he takes out another deceptive thing? It's not worth it, right? Right Coiling Tiger asked doubtfully. From the information this time, the level of information that Boss Bai gave to Lin Yi is increasing bit by bit. Last time it was the entry level. This time it's the insights. Next time, even if it's not his own insights, it will probably be the insights of an out-of-print ancient book. When the time comes, it will be of great use to our Yu family. Old Master, you said. Anyway, we don't lose anything by exchanging with him. We just get some materials. That's true. Right Coiling Tiger nodded and breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that not only did his grandfather not pursue his mistakes, but he encouraged him to continue doing so, which made Right Coiling Tiger feel at ease. That's not right, father. According to what Coiling Tiger just said, Lin Yi and Boss Bai said that he doesn't know alchemy. He can't even control the alchemy fire. What use does he have for the medicine cauldron and alchemy materials? Right Jintian suddenly thought of an unreasonable place. I'm also thinking about this. Old Master, you waved his hand and said, there are two explanations. One is that Lin Yi is hiding it. He actually knows alchemy. After all, this kid is very cunning. It's not surprising that he's lying. The second possibility is that Lin Yi doesn't know alchemy at all. He wants those materials for Han Jingjing. Maybe she's a good candidate for alchemy. The first possibility isn't realistic, right? Right Coiling Tiger said he doesn't need to hide whether he knows alchemy or not. This is not like his own strength, where he can pretend to be a pig to eat the tiger. What's there to hide in alchemy? If he knows alchemy, he can win people's hearts and win over the other hidden families. He doesn't need to hide it all, does he? Chapter 2254. Actually, I'm more inclined to the second possibility. Old Master, you said. Moreover, Lin Yi was willing to give the information to Han Jingjing. If Boss Bai didn't approve and instruct it, it wouldn't make sense. Boss Bai is a more strict person. Even if he is more optimistic about Lin Yi, he will be disgusted if Lin Yi simply gives his things to others unless he agrees. So, that Han Jingjing might be an alchemist? Yu Panhu didn't pay much attention to Han Jingjing before. In his impression, Han Jingjing was a pretty but silly girl. But now that he listened to his grandfather's analysis and thought about it carefully, it was really possible. It's very likely. Old Master, you said. Han Jingjing. Yu Panhu muttered this name silently. After you go back to school, pay attention to this Han Jingjing. If she really knows alchemy, then you must find a way to rope her in. Don't let her become Lin Yi's assistant. Old Master, you pondered for a moment and made a decision. Even if we take a step back, We have to find a way to destroy the relationship between her and Lin Yi. I understand. Yu Panhu listened to old Master Yu's instructions and couldn't help but smile. Not to mention that Han Jingjing was beautiful. If she knew alchemy, then wouldn't it be great if he hooked up with her? In the future, his status in the hidden Yu family would also skyrocket. As a matter of fact, there weren't many women who knew alchemy. If Han Jingjing became his wife, then she would inevitably be one of the elders of the Yu family in the future. At that time, although Yu Panhu wasn't the family master, his status in the family couldn't be underestimated. Old Master Yu saw the smile on Yu Panhu's face and naturally guessed this kid's dirty thoughts, but he didn't care. If Han Jingjing was really an alchemist and had the talent for alchemy, then he wouldn't object to Yu Panhu pursuing her. He would even help him and lend him a helping hand. As for whether Yu Panhu's status in the family would increase because of Han Jingjing's addition, Old Master Yu did not care. He valued the overall interests of the family. If Yu Zhentian took over as the family head in the future and could not even handle Yu Panhu and his wife, then it would be better to let Yu Panhu be the family head. A family head must have a tolerant attitude. If a family wanted to grow, it couldn't be achieved by suppressing other family members. They had to support each other and progress together. Only in this way could the family prosper. Otherwise, if he was the only powerful family head and everyone else was a coward, then the family would not be far from destruction. Let's stop here. Elder Yu waved his hand and said faintly, "Next, let's talk about the Kong family." The Kong family? Yu Panhu was stunned. He didn't know why he suddenly brought up the matter of the Kong family. But looking at First Uncle's expression of understanding, he must have received the news beforehand. Since they told him, it meant that Old Master Yu and First Uncle had already regarded him as a core member of the family. This made Yu Panhu excited. Although he knew that his position as the family head was still far away, his grandfather was still alive. Even if his grandfather passed away, First Uncle would take over as the family head. When it came to his generation, he didn't know how long he would have to wait. It was not bad to get an elder position first. Yes, it's the Kong family. Old Master Yu nodded and said, "Jintian, tell Panhu about young Master Tian taking away Kong Mingming from the Kong family." "Yes, father." Yu Jintian turned to Yu Coiling Tiger and told him about Sky Elixir Sect's young Master Sky Silkworm's purpose in coming to House Yu, as well as how he took Kong Xiaoming away. Of course, he left out some important details. After all, Yu Coiling Tiger was still young and didn't need to know so much. This was also what he and his father had discussed. Now, although they didn't know if the Kong family could prosper in the future, if Kong Mingming was really accepted as a disciple by the fifth elder and was valued by Tian Ken, then the possibility of him becoming the next elder of the Heavenly Elixir sect was very high. Then, the situation of one person in the Kong family ascending to the heavens would also happen. Although the Kong family's foundation was relatively weak and they didn't have any foundation, they still had someone above them. As long as Kong Mingming became prosperous, the Kong family would become prosperous sooner or later. Therefore, regardless of whether Kong Mingming could be valued or not, the Yu family must be prepared in advance to befriend the Kong family. If Kong Mingming was valued, then the Kong family's development would be unstoppable. There was no harm in befriending the Yu family and the Kong family. If Kong Mingming wasn't valued, then it didn't matter. Anyway, the Kong family had helped the Yu family a lot, so they could treat it as repayment. "Grandpa, Uncle, do you mean that I should be on good terms with the Kong family?" Yu Panhu wasn't too stupid. He immediately understood what his grandpa and uncle meant. "Yes." Old Master Yu nodded and said, "If Kong Mingming is valued, the Kong family's rise to the sky is unstoppable. There is no harm in building a good relationship as soon as possible. But if Kong Mingming isn't valued, we can treat it as an emotional investment. It can also make the Kong family work harder for us." "Then is it just me?" Yu Panhu was somewhat inexplicable. Why did he have to do all the family's matters recently? Does Grandpa want to train me? That's not right. This matter, the Heavenly Elixir sect, asked us to keep it a secret for the time being. If your uncle and I come forward, the Kong family will definitely be suspicious. Kong, like I, that old guy, is not a vegetarian. He is very shrewd. If he thinks of something, it will be difficult to handle. Old master, you explained, so it's just right for you to go. But before we get further news from the Heavenly Elixir sect, you don't have to be too enthusiastic. Just keep in touch with the third generation of the Kong family. I understand. Yu Panhu nodded. Who do you want me to contact? The third generation of the Kong family. Kong Mingming, didn't he leave with the Heavenly Elixir sect? The third generation of the Kong family. There is also a Kong Xiaolong. He is currently studying for his PhD in biology at Donghai Industry University. But because of his internship, he wasn't in school. He might return to school to write his thesis. Try to get in touch with him. Yu Zhentian passed a document to Yu Panhu and said, "Oh, this guy looks quite gentle." Yu Panhu took the document and flipped through it. But when he saw the marriage between the Kong family and the secular Xiao family, and that Xiaolong's fiancée was Wang Xinyan, his eyes widened. Damn, no way. This green-haired tortoise's girlfriend is Wang Xinyan? What's wrong? Yu Zhentian frowned. What's the relationship between you and this Wang Xinyan? Chapter 2255. Wang Xinyan, Lin Yi's girlfriend. Yu Zhentian paused. Isn't his girlfriend Tang Yin? How did it become Wang Xinyan? I don't know, but he and Wang Xinyan sit together in class every day. They're a couple, I'm sure they're close. Yu Coiling Tiger said. Plus, everyone says that these two are related. I think it's true. Don't get involved in this. Lin Yi isn't easy to deal with, and we still need him. We're preparing to get the information from him. So, don't get involved in the grudge between him and Xiaolong. We'll see how it goes, Elder Yu said after a moment of silence. All right, I know. Yu Coiling Tiger nodded. Donghai City's outskirts, in a heavily guarded manner. Jiang Wen was casually playing with his phone, reading a novel called Very Pure, Very Flirtatious Prequel. The more he read, the more excited he got. He felt that there was a villain called Li Buliang in the novel. He really admired him too much. Just as his blood was boiling, Scorpion walked in when Oh, it's Big Scorpion, what's wrong? Good news? Jiang Wen asked. Did the professor make some breakthrough on his side? When Bro is wise. Good news. Scorpion gave a thumbs up and said with admiration, Indeed, Professor Ian told me to inform when Bro that the flaws when Bro mentioned before were solved by him and his fellow disciples. An experiment was successful. Oh, not bad. Does that mean that even Lin Yi's pressure point technique is useless against our test subject? Jiang Wen asked excitedly as he thought about it. Yes, the 01 drug has been completed, and the new drug is named 02. The test subject injected with the drug is more durable than before, and he's not afraid of pressure point techniques. The drug has destroyed the pressure points. Big Scorpion said, this way it's the same as strengthening the defense. Now, it can at least defend against 10 consecutive attacks from a heaven rank initial phase master. However, the sacrifice is also very obvious. The attack power of the test subject is about the same as before. It can easily kill anyone below the early phase of Earth class. It can barely kill anyone between the early phase and the mid phase of Earth class. It can take down anyone between the mid phase and the late phase of Earth class. As for those above the late phase of Earth class, it can't kill them for the time being, but it can drag them out for a while. Very good. Jiang Wen didn't feel regretful at all. Instead, he was overjoyed. The attack didn't increase, but the defense did. Yeah, that Lin Yi is just an Earth-class mid-phase master. Even if he's stronger than normal masters, our test subject can still hurt him. Scorpion nodded. But this drug is still in its early stages. The production success rate isn't high. Don't worry, take your time to perfect it. Oh, right. Has the test subject been created? I'll give one to Li Biaohan to see how good he is. Jiang Wen said, I can start my kidnapping plan now. All right, Wen bro. I'll go tell the professor to get a test subject. Scorpion replied, What about Li Biaohan? Get the test subject out. I'll contact Li Biaohan myself. Jiang Wen said, Yes. Scorpion nodded and left respectfully. Jiang Wen, on the other hand, had a cold smile on his face. Lin Yi, don't get too cocky. I'll get rid of you sooner or later, and Meng Yao will be mine too. With the professor's research, Jiang Wen's ambition grew bigger and bigger. He wasn't satisfied with the current situation anymore. These test subjects were just the beginning. There would be test subjects 0, 3, 04, and 05 in the future. Killing Lin Yi in one hit wouldn't be a dream anymore. Li Biaohan was in the boxing club when he received Jiang Wen's call. Because of Lin Yi's challenge last time, the entire club was in a state of panic. Seeing that Audi Q7 parked in front of the club every day, many of the members were terrified, afraid that Lin Yi would come looking for trouble again. There was no helping it. Even Li Biaohan suffered a loss. Li Biaohan tried his best to calm them down, but there were still some new members leaving the boxing club. Li Biaohan was a little annoyed seeing these new members leaving, but there was nothing he could do. There were fewer people helping him collect protection fees and forcing him to buy and sell. Naturally, Li Biaohan's income also decreased. He needed manpower to sell and extort new students from their dorms. Seeing his income decrease, Li Biaohan was in a bad mood. His phone rang, and Li Biaohan was a little excited when he saw the caller ID. He knew that Jiang Wen had been planning something big for him to do. There had to be some progress with the call. Wen bro. Li Biaohan picked up the phone respectfully. Come over now. The thing I mentioned to you last time can be carried out now, Jiang Wen said. Yes. Li Biaohan was overjoyed and quickly agreed. Half an hour later, Li Biaohan appeared in Jiang Wen's room respectfully. Wen bro, Scorpion bro. All right, no need for the formality. Sit down and talk. Jiang Wen waved his hand. I need people who can do things, not people who flatter me. I'll need you, Scorpion, and the others to cooperate with me sincerely. You'll be in charge of finding and investigating the target, and Scorpion will send test subject 02 to do the kidnapping. Yes. Li Biaohan nodded excitedly. Wen bro, I've already chosen the first target. You've chosen? What does your family do? How much money can you squeeze out? Let me tell you, we need at least 10 million for this kidnapping. It's meaningless if it's too little. Jiang Wen's appetite was huge. He was used to doing big business without any capital, so he asked for 10 million straight away. It's Wang Xinyan, Li Biaohan said. Wang Xinyan? Who is she? Jiang Wen wasn't familiar with the name. What does her family do? How much money can they take out? That's Wang Xinyan, Lin Yi's girlfriend from school. Her family's in the medical business. 10 million is easy. Li Biaohan had found out about Wang Xinyan's family background during this time. He hated Lin Yi to the guts, so his first target was the people around Lin Yi. Chapter 2256. But as much as he hated Lin Yi, he didn't let it get to his head. Touching Lin Yi's woman. What if Lin Yi intervenes? Wouldn't it be easy for us to fail? Who's going to take responsibility if we die before we succeed? Wen bro, don't worry. Normally, I wouldn't dare touch Lin Yi's girlfriend. After all, that guy's too powerful. Who would want to mess with him? Li Biaohan waved his hand. But I've asked around. Lin Yi's gone on a long leave, and we don't know when he'll be back. He hasn't been to school for a few days now. I've asked my men to look into it, and the people close to Lin Yi all proved that Lin Yi's gone out. Plus, I've also observed Meng Yao. She's going to school with Yushu, Han Jingjing, and Han Xiaoqiao. The driver isn't Lin Yi, it's a chauffeur. Oh, Lin Yi's gone out? Jiang Wen's heart skipped a beat when he heard the news. If possible, He didn't mind causing some trouble for Lin Yi. Kidnapping Wang Xinyan would serve as a way to annoy Lin Yi. Kidnapping Lin Yi's girlfriend when he wasn't around and extorting a huge sum of money. Lin Yi probably wouldn't be able to find any clues when he came back. That's right, Bro, this is a great opportunity, Li Biaohan said. I've already looked into it. Lin Yi's definitely not around. Oh, let's do it then. Jiang Wen nodded. But let's make this clear. Other than kidnapping, don't do anything else to that Wang Xinyan. That Lin Yi is a mother * king maniac. If Xinyan really is his girlfriend, we can kidnap her, but don't do anything else. Lin Yi will kill anyone he suspects. He doesn't even need evidence. He might just kill everyone he hates in a fit of rage. That'd be *ked. I understand, Bro. Let's just ask for money and annoy Lin Yi. I won't cause any trouble. Even if Jiang Wen didn't say it, Li Biaohan wouldn't dare do anything. He was actually quite afraid of Lin Yi. Here, let's discuss Xinyan's schedule with Scorpion and come up with a plan. We'll kidnap her in a place with a lot of people, and it'd be best if everyone could prove that she was kidnapped. That way, we'll be able to get the ransom easily. Jiang Wen wasn't afraid of failure. With test subject number 2, who could stop him? All right, Li Biaohan nodded. Jiang Wen waved his hand and sent Li Biaohan and Scorpion out of the room. He continued reading, very pure, very flirtatious prequel, on his phone. Li Buliang was a genius. The more he read, the more Jiang Wen admired him. He swore to be a villain like Li Buliang. The day before the weekend, Wang Xinyan received an invitation from Meng Yao. She was invited to her house. Xinyan couldn't help but feel a little fearful at the thought. Meng Yao didn't invite her personally, but Han Jingjing had told her about it. It wasn't a formal invitation, but Xinyan's heart was still beating like a drum. Lin Yi was away, and Meng Yao was inviting her over. What did she mean? Was it a friendly invitation? Or was it a trap? Or was she trying to figure out her relationship with Lin Yi? Han Jingjing was only in charge of passing on the message. She didn't say anything else after that, but Wang Xinyan's heart was in a mess. They had agreed to meet at the parking lot after school. But Wang Xinyan was distracted again. She didn't pay attention in class, and she didn't take many notes. Wang Xinyan looked at the departing boss by and put away her textbook. She shook her head. She promised Lin Yi that she would take notes for him. But today Xinyan turned back to look at Han Jingjing, only to see that the girl was still playing with her tablet. Xinyan was hoping that Han Jingjing would take the initiative to call her, but Han Jingjing was so engrossed in her work that she didn't even seem to notice that class had ended. Jingjing, let's go downstairs now, Xinyan said helplessly. Ah, class is over already? Han Jingjing raised her head in a daze, looking at the empty classroom. She smiled embarrassedly. Sorry, I was too engrossed. Let's go downstairs now. Yeah. Xinyan subconsciously agreed. She knew that if it was a blessing, then it wouldn't be a curse. She couldn't just ignore Meng Yao's invitation, could she? She carefully walked out of the classroom with Han Jingjing, as if she was a daughter-in-law visiting her home for the first time. Han Jingjing, on the other hand, didn't seem to notice that. Xinyan sis, I heard that Yao sis prepared a feast tonight. Right? Do you like Western food? It's all right. Xinyan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Han Jingjing, on the other hand, didn't feel any pressure at all. But Xinyan, where was she in the mood to eat? In actuality, Meng Yao didn't have any ulterior motives for inviting Xinyan over. But according to Han Jingjing, Lin Yi and Xinyan were very close in school, sticking together in class all the time. Meng Yao thought that there was an 80% chance that something was going on between Xinyan and Lin Yi. While Lin Yi wasn't home, she decided to probe Xinyan a bit. Xinyan. Meng Yao greeted Xinyan with a smile when she saw her and Han Jingjing walking over. Meng Yao, Yushu, hello. Xinyan's expression was a little unnatural, a little shy. Wu Qintian, we've met before. Qintian nodded politely to Xinyan. Back in Yanjing, Xinyan was Zhao Long's girlfriend, so he didn't really mind. But now that Xin Yan was Lin Yi's girlfriend, he didn't dare be rude. Xin Yan couldn't help but think of the time when she had a meal with Xiaolong in Yanjing. Xiaolong and the Xiao family were all trying their best to please this man, and now he was Lin Yi's follower? This Lin Yi sure was something, getting followers everywhere. But before Xin Yan could say anything, a black van without a license plate came barreling toward them. It screeched to a stop right next to Xin Yan, and an expressionless man in black jumped out. He grabbed Xin Yan's arm and pulled her into the van. Chapter 2257. The black-clothed man didn't answer Qintian's question at all. He ignored Qintian and the others as he dragged Xin Yan into the van. Die. Qintian was pissed, and this guy was ignoring him, kidnapping someone right in front of him. Did he think he, an Earth-class early phase, was a free lunch? The next moment, Qintian grabbed the man and roared, "Where do you think you're going?" The black-clothed man looked at Qintian coldly and pushed him hard, causing Qintian to stumble. The burly man in black got into the car, and the black van sped away. Qintian was shocked. He thought it was just a normal kidnapping, but he didn't expect the guy to be this strong. He didn't use all of his strength when he grabbed Lin Yi's arm, but he was still the inheritor of the Iron Fist arts. Lin Yi being able to break free meant that he wasn't simple at all. He was at least a practitioner. "Miss Chu, bring everyone back first," Qintian said hurriedly as he ran towards the direction of the van. Of course, he didn't think he could catch up to the van on foot, since he was only an Earth-class early phase. He didn't have that kind of speed. But when they got out of the school and reached a place with no one around, Qintian yelled, "Phone!" The purple thunderbolt beast appeared in front of Qintian. The beast and General Weiwu had been following Qintian secretly for the past 2 days. Qintian was his bodyguard on the surface, and the beast and General Weiwu were his bodyguards in the dark. Qintian couldn't catch up to the van, but the purple thunderbolt beast had no problem. Qintian sat on the beast and said, "Go after that black van." The beast wasn't happy about being ridden by Qintian, but when it thought about how he was the follower of its master, and that he was under orders to protect its master's friend, the beast whimpered and ran towards the direction the black van disappeared to. It was already dark, and the purple thunderbolt beast didn't have to worry about being discovered. Even if someone did, they'd only see a shadow, and they didn't know what it was. Scorpion couldn't communicate with the second test subject. But Qintian's interference made him realize that Qintian was probably a practitioner, but he wasn't a match for the second test subject. This was an oversight. Fortunately, test subject number 2 was more powerful. Otherwise, the kidnapping might have really failed. It wouldn't be easy to explain to Jiang Wen if things went badly. As for Li Biaohan, he was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. At this moment, he was sitting in a black Santana, watching the whole kidnapping process from afar. When he saw Qintian intervene, he jumped in fright. He was afraid of being exposed. This didn't just affect his income. It also affected his position in front of Jiang Wen. Now he was reduced to the situation of driving a scrapped Santana off the line with a taxi. As the boss of several schools in the university town, it was very miserable. He had no choice. He had lost a car and a lot of money to Lin Yi. Where would he find the money to buy a new car? He could only drive a scrap Santana that cost 2,000, stepping on the gas pedal and emitting black smoke. So, when he saw that Qintian failed to stop him and tried to stop him again, Li Biaohan jumped in fright and quickly called Scorpion. "Hello." Scorpion picked up the phone. "What's up?" "Scorpion bro, the person who stopped you just went after them," Li Biaohan said. "What? Went after them?" Scorpion paused. "A car? I didn't see AX5 following them." "No, they walked," Li Biaohan said. "Holy sh*T. Scorpion suddenly screamed as if he saw a ghost. He looked at the rearview mirror with his eyes wide open. Previously, he didn't feel that there was anything wrong. However, as his car turned into an alley, trouble came, and it was big. a man, and a beast appeared behind him. Wasn't that the man who stopped test subject number 2 from kidnapping Sin Yan? He didn't know what his mount was. It wasn't a horse, it wasn't a cow, it was more like a unicorn from the legends. Where did this person come from? Even if he was driving a tank or armored vehicle, it wouldn't be as terrifying and impactful to Big Mule when he was riding this strange thing. And that wasn't all. The thing that scared him the most was that this thing ran faster than a car, catching up in an instant. It seemed like it was running neck and neck with them. The man and beast had disappeared from the rearview mirror, because when Scorpion turned around, he saw Chen Tian smiling at him from the back of the beast. Phut! Big Scorpion stepped on the gas pedal to the floor. Unfortunately, his car's performance wasn't up to par. He didn't expect such a big monster to chase after him. He was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat and had goosebumps all over. Chen Tian could only scare him a little, but he didn't dare force him to stop or let the beast flip the car. After all, Sin Yan was still in the car, and she wasn't a practitioner. If the car flipped, she wouldn't be able to survive. So, Chen Tian could only wait for Scorpion to stop the car himself. He could only make his move when he did. Scorpion looked at the monster that was running neck and neck with him. Bioweapons were scary enough, weren't they? And this thing came out of nowhere. Scorpion had no choice but to call Jiang Wen as he drove. "When bro, it's bad, a monster is following me." "What? Monster?" Jiang Wen was enjoying his novel when Scorpion's words came out of nowhere. "What monster? You're not awake yet, are you?" "No, when bro, there really is a monster, a man, and a horse. That monster runs really fast, and it has a horn on its head." Scorpion said, "Oh, wait, what did you say? That monster has a horn on its head? It can't be the purple lightning beast, can it?" Jiang Wen, too, heard about the whole process of the Hidden House Summit, and that Lin Yi had tricked a spirit beast from the Gone Mountain sect. It was the purple lightning beast, and he heard that it was quite fast. Purple lightning beast? What's that? Scorpion paused. "Stop the car and let test subject number 2 fight them. If subject number 2 loses, you give Sin Yan back to them, but if you win, we'll continue the kidnapping." Jiang Wen said after a moment of silence. Chapter 2258. After all, the purple thunderbolt beast was a factor he didn't consider before. He didn't think that there would be someone who could control the beast when Lin Yi wasn't home. And so, Jiang Wen told Scorpion to stop running and let test subject number 2 spar with the purple lightning beast. It'd be a good opportunity to test subject number 2's strength. Although the medicine was expensive, Jiang Wen didn't care about the money. Yes. Scorpion was scared, but since Jiang Wen asked him to stop, he had no choice but to find a place with no one and stop the car. However, Scorpion didn't get out of the car. He let test subject number 2 get out of the car, and then he held Sin Yan hostage, observing the situation below the car. If anything went wrong, he'd drive away immediately. Sin Yan was already tied to the car, so he wasn't afraid of her running away. Seeing Scorpion stop the car, Chen Tian let out a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that Scorpion would drive off the car. He wouldn't be able to do anything if that happened. He couldn't stop the car by force and could only follow from the side. It would be fine if he kept driving in the back alleys, but if he went to the downtown area, he and the purple thunderbolt beast wouldn't be able to show themselves. Seeing test subject number 2, the man in black, get off the car, Chen Tian immediately became alert. This person in front of him was able to push his hand away so easily. His cultivation was definitely not low. Chen Tian knew that the violet thunderbolt beast was stronger than him, and so he gave it a look, telling it to deal with test subject number 2 while he got on the car to save Sin Yan. But just as Chen Tian came up with a plan, the man in black started attacking him the moment he got off the car. There was no room for negotiation or extra words, and he threw a punch at Chen Tian's face. From Chen Tian's point of view, There was no technique to this punch, and there was no strong chi wave. But for some reason, Qin felt a sense of alertness in his heart. It was as if the opponent's punch contained an infinite amount of power that he couldn't defend against. Qin subconsciously dodged to the side, not wanting to tangle with the man. He wanted to go around him to save Xinyan, but the man seemed to have locked onto him. Qin dodged, and the man's fist curved and swung at him. At this point, Qin couldn't dodge anymore. He had no choice but to raise his hand and meet the attack head-on. Qin, on the other hand, was still hoping that he'd be lucky. He was a practitioner of Iron Hands, and he'd reached Earth Class early phase. How could he not be confident in dealing with someone who didn't seem to have any strength? But when Qin's fist collided with the man's, he knew that he was wrong, and very wrong at that. It looked like a normal punch, but it was immensely powerful. Qin felt like he was an ant trying to shake an elephant, and with just one punch, he was sent flying, coughing up blood. Test Subject 02 could easily kill anyone below Earth Class early phase, and Qin had just reached Earth Class early phase. Naturally, he had no chance of winning against Test Subject 02. Luckily, he was a practitioner of both physical and spiritual arts, and he was stronger than most spiritual or physical practitioners of the same level. He was also an expert in Iron Hands. Using his own fist to fight Test Subject 02 was the only reason he didn't die. Otherwise, he'd be a corpse by now. Even so, Qin still suffered serious internal injuries. He was shocked. Where the hell did these kidnappers come from? How could he be so strong? He didn't look like a master, but he was so strong. Qin couldn't get up after falling to the ground. His opponent's strength was far beyond his imagination. Qin was full of confidence after breaking through and becoming an Earth Class early phase. But just when he wanted to show off his skills, he was dealt a heavy blow. Qin stared at the man, unwilling to give up. He watched as the man walked towards him step by step. Qin's heart was filled with bitterness. He'd underestimated his enemy, and he'd let down Lin Yi's trust. But so what if he didn't underestimate him? Even if he knew that the enemy was strong, could he just sit back and not chase after him? Obviously not, so the result would be the same no matter what. Now, Qin could only place his hope on the purple lightning beast. Awoo! The purple lightning beast could feel the strength of its opponent. It didn't expect Qin to be so weak. This also showed how strong the opponent was. The man didn't seem to care about the pressure brought by the purple lightning beast's roar, as if it had nothing to do with him. He punched the beast expressionlessly. As for the purple thunderbolt beast stopping him from killing Qin, the black-clothed man was neither happy nor sad. But his target had changed from Qin to the purple thunderbolt beast. He didn't show much fear towards the purple lightning beast, which was different from Big Scorpion. Of course, Test Subject 02 didn't have his own thoughts anymore. He only listened to Big Scorpion. Big Scorpion's order was to kill Qin and the purple lightning beast, so he only needed to listen. The purple lightning tempest beast could have dodged this blow, but it had thick skin and flesh. In order to test the black-robed man's trump card, it forcefully received the punch. After receiving this punch, the purple lightning tempest beast's heart sank. However, the speed of the purple electric beast of wind and thunder was fast. Taking advantage of the time it took to forcefully receive the punch, it also slapped at the black-robed, burly man. The black-clothed man staggered after being slapped by the purple electric tempest beast, but he stood up as if nothing had happened. In terms of resistance and defense, Professor Ian and his senior and junior brothers had greatly enhanced Test Subject 02. It was incomparable to Test Subject 01, so the purple electric tempest beast's attack really didn't cause any damage to it. After all, he was now able to receive 10 consecutive attacks from a heaven rank expert. The purple lightning wind beast's attack power was nothing to him. When it saw the situation before it, the purple electric tempest beast instantly had the intention to retreat. Chapter 2259. It wouldn't matter if it won, but what if it lost? Looking at Qintian's face, if it lost, it would lose all its trump cards. It would be even more disadvantageous to the situation. The purple lightning beast was confident that with its speed and thick skin, it could fight against the Earth-class black-clothed man for 100 rounds. But what use would that be? It could only fight and fight, but it was impossible to defeat the man. Wasting time and energy on useless things wasn't a wise choice. With that thought, the purple thunderbolt beast had an idea. It quickly picked up Qintian and retreated in the opposite direction. Although the purple electric tempest beast did not have the confidence to win, in terms of escaping speed, it was unparalleled. In the blink of an eye, it had disappeared. Scorpion didn't feel regretful that the purple lightning beast ran away with Qintian. Instead, he let out a long sigh of relief. He ordered test subject number 2 to get in the car and stepped on the gas pedal, speeding towards the destination he had chosen. Although he felt that the purple lightning beast was afraid of test subject number 2, Scorpion was a little afraid of it. That thing didn't look like a human or a ghost, and it scared him just looking at it. As he drove, Scorpion called Jiang Wen. "Scorpion, how is it?" Jiang Wen wasn't playing with his phone anymore, anxiously waiting for Scorpion's result. Jiang Wen didn't really care if the second subject died or not. The success rate of the 02 drug wasn't that high, but it wasn't a lost product. He didn't really care if Xinyan was saved or not, but he did care if his right-hand man, Scorpion, didn't die. Jiang Wen was used to having Scorpion by his side. Scorpion had participated in many of his plans, and it was a walk in the park for him. If Scorpion died and he had to find someone else to replace him, it wouldn't be easy for him to get used to it. Brother Win, the person riding the beast, was severely injured by test subject number 2. The beast chose to retreat after exchanging a few blows with test subject number 2. It ran away with the injured person. Scorpion reported. Ran away. Not bad at all. Jiang Wen was overjoyed. Even the purple tempest lightning beast was no match for his test subject. That was something worth celebrating. One had to know that even those few heaven-ranked old men didn't dare to go head-to-head with the purple electric storm beast. In the future, if he could get a few more test subjects, wouldn't robbing the hidden families be a piece of cake? He just didn't know if the second test subject could beat Lin Yi. Yeah, seems like test subject 02 is quite powerful, Scorpion said. Not bad. Since that's the case, let's stick to the original plan. Take Xinyan to point 3, Jiang Wen ordered. Yes. Big Scorpion nodded. However, what Big Scorpion didn't know was that although there seemed to be no one following him, the purple electric tempest beast had been following him in the dark. The purple electric tempest beast was an ancient spiritual beast with high spiritual intelligence. After putting Qintian in a safe place, it flew towards the direction of Scorpion's van, but this time it was in the dark. The car was on the road, and the purple electric tempest beast was running on the walls nearby. With Scorpion's senses as a normal person, naturally he wouldn't be able to sense that the purple electric tempest beast was still behind him. However, test subject number 2 was strong, but it was just a puppet with no intelligence. It was impossible for it to sense that someone was following it. Big Scorpion had a smooth journey. They arrived at the number 3 stronghold. It was an abandoned farm. The property belonged to the Fire Wolf gang, but in name, it was an unrelated company's property. If the police followed this lead, naturally they wouldn't find anything. And Jiang Wen had always been careful, and it was impossible for him to make a mistake in the details. This was also the reason why he never got into trouble himself despite doing so many bad things. He never put himself in danger. The only time he did it was when he was blinded by love and hatred. He wanted to cut out Lin Yi's kidney, but he didn't manage to cut out Lin Yi's kidney. Instead, he cut out his own. From then on, Jiang Wen wouldn't do stupid things like this again. Big Scorpion drove the car safely into Stronghold Number 3. This abandoned farm had Fire Wolfgang's minions waiting for them. Scorpion gave a few orders, and these people cooperated to lock Xinyan in a room by herself. Test subject Number 2, on the other hand, was ordered to stand guard at the door. The next thing to do was to wait for the news of Xinyan's kidnapping to spread. After that, Scorpion could call Xinyan's family and blackmail them. The purple thunderbolt beast appeared near farm Number 3 without anyone noticing. After confirming that Scorpion had driven the car in and locked Xinyan up, the purple thunderbolt beast turned around and left, leaving a trail of dust in its wake. The purple thunderbolt beast went to Qin Tian's hiding place and carried him back to the villa. Qin Tian was heavily injured, but he was a practitioner of both internal and external strength. He was only hit by test subject Number 2, so his life wasn't in danger. But his pitiful state made Meng Yao, Yushu, Han Jingjing, and Han Xiaoqiao jump in fright. Meng Yao was counting on Qin Tian and the purple thunderbolt beast to save Xinyan, but it seemed that not only was she not saved, but Qin Tian was also heavily injured. "Wu Qin Tian, how are you?" Meng Yao was worried. A while ago, when Linny was at home, nothing happened, but when Linny left, something happened. Did these people plan this? "I'm fine. I won't die yet, but Wang Xinyan." Qin Tian felt that he'd failed Lin Yi's expectations. He'd been injured saving Tang Yin last time, and now he was injured saving Wang Xinyan again. "Do you know who the enemy is?" Meng Yao felt that things were a little weird. If it was Lin Yi's enemy who did this, then why not her and Shu? Why Wang Xinyan? Even he himself wasn't too sure about the relationship between Lin Yi and Xinyan. There were only rumors going around the school. So why did Xinyan have to be his enemy? Chapter 2260. I'll give Lin Yi a call. Meng Yao hesitated and decided to call Lin Yi first. But the call was disconnected. There was no signal in Wulongheot Mountains, so it was normal that Lin Yi couldn't pick up. "You can't get through?" Qin Tian could tell from Meng Yao's expression that the call didn't go through. He sighed. "There's only one way." "What is it?" Meng Yao asked. Although the one who was kidnapped was Xinyan, Meng Yao was still worried. If something happened to her, Lin Yi wouldn't be happy. "The Hidden House Pai," Qin Tian said. "Pai Zhishan from the Hidden House Pai is boss's follower. If we can get Elder Pai to help, maybe things will turn around." "Old Pai, will you help?" Meng Yao knew what happened at the Hidden House Summit, but it was still a dangerous thing to do. Qin Tian was heavily injured, and House Pai wouldn't be able to get involved. "We can only try for now." Qin Tian smiled bitterly. But what surprised Qin Tian was that when he called Pai Zhishan's face was filled with passion. Qin Tian told Zhishan about the problem and his plan, and Zhishan only hesitated for a moment before saying that he would ask Elder Pai first before calling Qin Tian. Qin Tian breathed in relief. At least Zhishan didn't reject him outright. This meant that there was still a chance. Zhishan didn't dare waste any time after getting the call. He went straight to Elder Pai's room and told him what happened in Donghai. Qin Tian was injured in one hit, and even the purple lightning beast wasn't his match. "It seems like the enemy is quite troublesome." Elder Pai frowned. "Yeah, but this is a chance for House Pai." Zhishan's heart ached as he thought about his unconscious brother. Although he tried to be nice to Lin Yi didn't accept him that easily. House Pai had no choice but to keep Zhihai's condition and wait for Lin Yi's treatment. Old Man Pai nodded. How could he not know that this was an opportunity? If he helped, then Lin Yi would definitely remember this favor. Not only that, but House Pai and House Han would also be on Lin Yi's side. If they encountered any trouble they couldn't solve, they could ask for help from Lin Yi. "Let's go to East Ocean City tonight." Old Man Pai, who had always been cautious, finally made his decision. This was the biggest gamble of his life. This gamble was related to the future of House Pai. If he really did save Xinyan, then House Pai's rise would be just around the corner, along with Lin Yi's rise. But if he lost, not only would Old Man Pai get injured or even die, but his family would also have a huge enemy. But the opportunity was right in front of him, and he had no choice but to choose. All right. Zhishan nodded firmly. He felt that the small characters around Lin Yi had all risen to the top. How many of those who went against Lin Yi had a good ending? Weren't Zhang Naipeo and Feng Nitian powerful? Both of them were crippled, but Lin Yi was still alive and kicking. Just this point alone was enough for House Pai to gamble. Qin Tian waited patiently after making the call. He wouldn't die for now, but he was worried about House Pai's reply. Meng Yao and Yu Shu, after sending Han Jingjing and Han Xiaoqiao away, sat on the sofa with their brows furrowed. Yao Yao, do you think this kidnapping has nothing to do with Shield Bro? Maybe it's not targeted at him? Yu Shu couldn't think of a reason for Xinyan's kidnapping. I'm not sure yet, but I'm curious as well. What's their goal in kidnapping Xinyan? Meng Yao was curious as well. The phone rang, and Qin Tian hurriedly picked it up. He looked at the caller ID and his heart tightened. Master Pai, although Lin Yi said that Zhishan was his follower, and according to seniority, that meant that he was Qin Tian's follower, but he was the one asking for House Pai's help, and Qin Tian didn't dare to be careless. Tian bro, just call me Pai. I've discussed it with Grandpa, and we'll head to East Ocean City tonight. I hope we can make it in time. House Pai had made their decision, and they were betting on Lin Yi. Naturally, they were a lot more polite to Qin Tian. That's great. I'll give you the address. Qin Tian quickly told Zhishan the villa's address. After Zhishan wrote it down, he said that he would drive there right away. After hanging up, Qin Tian let out a long breath. Everything's settled. Pai Zhishan and Elder Pai will rush here tonight. With Elder Pai, a Sky Class Master, there shouldn't be any problems. Fu, Meng Yao breathed out in relief. Things were really strange sometimes. House Pai used to be her enemy, but now they were Lin Yi's follower. Miss Chu, shouldn't we contact Xinyan's family now? Xinyan's in trouble. We should notify her family. Qin Tian suddenly remembered that they'd neglected something, and that was to contact Xinyan's parents. Perhaps they'd be able to get some clues from them, as well as the reason for the kidnapping. After all, Lin Yi couldn't think of a reason why Xinyan would be kidnapped. Yeah, I forgot. Meng Yao slapped her forehead as she dialed by Wei Tuo's number. She wanted him to get Xinyan's parents' contact information. Bai Wei Tuo was a professor at the school, and it was a piece of cake for him to look up Xinyan's information. Qin Tian could go through the Xiao family as well, but House Wu and the Xiao family weren't on good terms right now, and Qin Tian didn't want to cause any trouble. Ling Shan didn't think that she'd get kidnapped on her first day. The main character of the kidnapping case had some power and influence in her family, and they were related to the Xiao family. The kidnapped girl's mother was Xiao Qinlin, a member of the Xiao family. Her father, Wang Xubin, was a medicine merchant in the city. His business wasn't that big, but it was still a star in the area. Their daughter was kidnapped, and naturally, Ling Shan was under a lot of pressure, especially on her first day as captain. She hadn't gotten used to it yet, and she had to throw herself into work. Chapter 2261. Mr. Wang, Miss Xiao, forgive me for being blunt, but did you guys offend anyone when you were doing business? Ling Shan had no choice but to ask about these things in detail, since the kidnappers had called Xiao Qinlin earlier, saying that their daughter had been kidnapped and hanging up the phone. There was no reason, no motive, and no mention of the ransom. Wang Xubin and Xiao Qinlin were confused. They tried to contact their daughter, but couldn't get through to her, so they hurriedly came to report the case. Who did you offend? Qinlin turned to Wang Xubin after some thought. Wang Xubin had always been the one in charge of the business, and Qinlin had always been in charge of the logistics. As a result, the chances of her offending anyone was very low, and the main thing was whether Wang Shubin had offended anyone. I've always been honest with my business. I've never done anything like that, and I work well with my business partners as well. We've been friends for many years, so I don't think we have any enemies. Wang Shubin shook his head after some thought. Then what about the Shao family? Ling Shan didn't get any useful clues, so she had no choice but to get straight to the point. The Shao family? Officer Song, you know about the Shao family? Qinlin paused. She'd never interacted with Ling Shan before, so naturally she didn't know about her other identity. I'm from House Song, one of the noble houses in the past. Ling Shan didn't hide anything. If this wasn't caused by you and your wife, then could it be caused by the Shao family? I see. The Shao family's people are very arrogant, and we don't really have much contact with them. Only this year, when my brother wanted my daughter to marry Xiaolong from House Kong, did we have some contact. Qinlin said after some thought, if we're talking about enemies, then the Shao family seems to have offended someone called Lin Yi. Lin Yi? Ling Shan shook her head with a bitter smile. He can't be the kidnapper. Ah, why? Qinlin paused, not expecting Ling Shan to deny the answer right away. She didn't like it. It took her so long to think of an enemy, but Ling Shan said it wasn't. What was the point of thinking? Even if Lin Yi had a grudge against the Shao family, he'd go after the Shao family. He wouldn't kidnap your daughter, Ling Shan explained. The Shao family is nothing to Lin Yi. Ling Shan wanted to continue explaining, but Wang Shubin's phone rang. Ling Shan stopped talking and looked at Wang Shubin. This might be a call from the kidnappers. Ling Shan signaled Lu Wanli, who had been transferred to Donghai with her, to investigate the situation. She turned to Wang Shubin. Pick it up first. If it's the kidnappers, try to buy as much time as possible. Wang Shubin nodded and picked up the phone. He saw a strange phone number, but he didn't think much about it. It was normal for kidnappers to change their phone numbers. He picked up the phone directly. Hello, I'm Wang Shubin. Hello, I'm Wang Shubin. Hello, I'm Wang Xinyan's classmate from university. There's something bad I want to tell you. Meng Yao's voice came from the other side of the phone. She didn't beat around the bush. Wang Xinyan was kidnapped at the school gate. What, you're Yan Yan's classmate? Yan Yan was kidnapped at the school gate? Wang Shubin was startled. He didn't expect it to be Xinyan's classmate. He only received a short call from the kidnappers, but they didn't say where Xinyan was kidnapped. He didn't ask either. Now that he heard that Xinyan's classmate might be a witness, he immediately said, I already know about this. Can you come to the police station? I'm at the police station right now. Can you tell the officers the details of Yan Yan's kidnapping? Oh, okay. Meng Yao frowned when she heard that Wang Shubin already knew about Xinyan's kidnapping. It seemed like the kidnappers had contacted Wang Shubin already. This meant that the kidnappers weren't after Lin Yi. But in this case, the matter became even more confusing. If they weren't after Lin Yi, then it should be someone Xinyan or her family had offended. It should be a normal kidnapper, but that wasn't the case. Even Qin Tian couldn't take a single hit from them, and the purple thunderbolt beast couldn't do anything to them either. A kidnapper of this level didn't seem to be a normal person, did he? If they weren't after Lin Yi, then things were even more troublesome. They didn't even have an imaginary enemy. Wu Qintian, are you all right? Let Shu stay and take care of you? Meng Yao turned to Qintian as she was heading to the police station. I'm fine. I won't die. Qintian grinned. When boss comes back, he'll recover instantly. Plus, I still have Grandma's son to feed and drink. You guys go, don't worry about me. Meng Yao nodded and quickly left the villa with Yushu. They drove to the police station in Donghai. Ling Shan was surprised to see Meng Yao and Yushu in her office, so they were the witnesses Wang Shubin was talking about? Song Fox. Sis, what are you doing here? Yushu was about to call Ling Shan Fox Song, But she remembered that Ling Shan had risked her life to help her and Meng Yao escape with Lin Yi. She couldn't bring herself to mock her like she used to. Plus, her brother had moved on, and Ling Shan had fallen in love with Shield Bro. She couldn't say anything more about Ling Shan. I just got transferred here. This is the capital, so it counts as a promotion, Ling Shan said. Where's Lin Yi? Lin Yi and Sun, Jingyi went out. There's something they need to take care of. Meng Yao said, if Lin Yi was home, the kidnappers wouldn't have gotten away so easily. Qintian was in a bad state, but Meng Yao believed that if Lin Yi was home, Lin Yi would be able to do something about it. It was a blind trust. Meng Yao didn't know why or when it started, but she had this kind of stubborn faith in Lin Yi. Maybe it was because of Shu. Wang Shubin and Qin Lin were a bit weirded. How did these two girls know Lin Yi? And Xin Yan seemed to know Lin Yi as well. They had suspected that Lin Yi had kidnapped his daughter, but now it seemed that Lin Yi wasn't home at all. Chapter 2262. It's like this. I invited Xin Yan to my house today, and we were supposed to meet at the parking lot after school. But when she got there, a black van without a license plate rushed over and tied her up in the car. Meng Yao said as she turned to look at Wang Shubin and Qin Lin. Not sure if she should tell them the rest of the story. You can't tell me what happened after that? Ling Shan could tell what Meng Yao was worried about. What? Is there something else? It's nothing much. It's just that Wu Qintian chased after her, but he wasn't a match for the kidnappers, and he didn't even last a single move. Meng Yao said with a bitter smile. She didn't tell them about the purple thunderbolt beast, because it wasn't a good idea to tell them about it, and secondly, she didn't want to tell them that the beast had already found the kidnappers' hideout. If Ling Shan attacked recklessly, she'd be in danger. The kidnappers' strength was beyond their estimations. They were definitely practitioners. What? Ling Shan looked at Meng Yao in shock. She knew how strong Wu Qintian was. He was a mystic late-phase peak, just like her, and he was a practitioner of both body and spirit. If Wu Qintian couldn't even last a single move, then the kidnappers had to be at least in Earth class. Plus, Wu Qintian's already in Earth class early phase now. Meng Yao added, What Earth class early phase? Ling Shan took in a cold breath, realizing that she'd underestimated the kidnapper's strength. She didn't think that they'd be able to take down an Earth class early phase in one move. It seemed like this kidnapping wasn't as simple as she'd thought. Yeah, at first, we thought that the kidnappers were after Lin Yi. That's why they kidnapped Xin Yan, but now it seems like the kidnappers contacted Xin Yan's parents first, so they probably don't have much to do with Lin Yi anymore. Meng Yao said, After Lin Yi? Ling Shan blinked. Wang Xinyan. She's Lin Yi's girlfriend in school. Meng Yao said, It'd be troublesome if she explained things like that, so she just said it like that. Compared to Ling Shan, Meng Yao was more inclined towards Lin Yi choosing Xinyan. After all, she and Shu weren't too compatible with Ling Shan. Ling Shan had protected them with all her might, but that was only because of Lin Yi. Ah, Qin Lin and Wang Shubin froze at Meng Yao's words. My daughter found a boyfriend at school? She wasn't with House Kang's Kong Xiaolong. The two of them felt like they were in a mess. Before, they had guessed that Lin Yi had kidnapped their daughter, but now their daughter and Lin Yi were actually in a relationship. Could it be that the Kong family was dissatisfied and hired someone to do it? Then, could it be someone from the Kong family? Wang Shubin saw through his wife's thoughts, so he asked, House Kong can't have a master like that. Ling Shan shook her head. Plus, it doesn't seem like it. If it was House Kong, then they'd still be targeting Lin Yi. They wouldn't call you guys, so I feel like this kidnapping is more like a normal kidnapping. It's just that the kidnappers are a little special. Let's wait for the kidnappers to call and see what they want. That's the only way. Wang Shubin nodded. He was curious why his daughter was in a relationship at school, but he wasn't in the mood to ask about it right now. His daughter's safety was more important, and he could ask her about it after she was out of danger. Meng Yao looked at Ling Shan, wanting to say something. She wanted to talk about the hidden house pie, but Ling Shan didn't care about it. She was just worried that Wang Shubin and Qin Lin would spread the news. House Pie and Lin Yi were friends now, and if the other hidden houses found out, it'd be bad for House Pie. At the very least, they'd have to wait for Lin Yi to come back first. Then we'll go back first. We don't know much, that's all, Meng Yao said. All right, contact me if anything happens. Ling Shan's observation skills were sharp, and she could tell that Meng Yao wanted to say something. Naturally, Ling Shan could tell that Meng Yao wanted to say something, but maybe it was because Wang Shubin and Xiao Qinlin were here. So she decided to give Meng Yao a call later, not long after Meng Yao and Yushu left. Wang Shubin received the second call from the kidnappers. Is this Wang Shubin? On the other side of the phone, a strange voice came through the voice changer. Yes, it's you. How's my daughter? Wang Shubin could tell that it was the kidnapper from before. Don't worry, Mr. Wang. Your daughter is fine, but that's just for now, Scorpion said. If Mr. Wang doesn't want anything to happen to your daughter, then you better do as I say. What do you want? Wang Shubin asked. Prepare 10 million and wait for my call. With that, the kidnapper hung up, not giving Wang Shubin any time to reply. Wait. Wang Shubin looked at the phone, helplessly, shaking his head. This kidnapper didn't play by the rules at all. He wanted to do what Ling Shan told him to, but the kidnapper just hung up on him. Wang Shubin smiled bitterly as he looked at Ling Shan. Ling Shan, on the other hand, was waiting for Lu Wangli's reply. How is it? Ling Shan looked at Lu Wangli, who was walking over. Captain Song, the technicians have already traced the call, but the call was transferred multiple times from overseas. We won't be able to trace it in a short amount of time. Lu Wangli said. Ling Shan nodded. It seemed like the kidnapper was a veteran, and he was very familiar with these things. She had guessed that this was the case, but she didn't have much hope. Since the kidnappers were much stronger than an Earth-class early phase, it wouldn't be easy to find out the identity of the kidnapper through the phone. Did you find out where the car went? Ling Shan asked. Nope, it's a new MPV and it was smuggled over. We don't have this model in the country, so we couldn't find any information. The kidnappers took the back alleys and there were no surveillance cameras. Lu Wangli said. Ling Shan had pretty much expected this outcome. She turned to Wang Shubin. What did the kidnappers say? Chapter 2263. Although 10 million yuan was not a small amount for Wang Su, especially for a businessman like him, his liquidity was limited. After all, most of his money was spent on goods. It was a bit difficult to take out 10 million yuan at once. However, for the safety of his daughter, he would still try his best. Wait here, I'll go make a call. Ling Shan felt that she needed to talk to Meng Yao privately. She didn't know when Xinyan became Lin Yi's girlfriend, but since she was Lin Yi's girlfriend, Lin Yi couldn't just ignore it. There had to be a way. Wang Shubin nodded helplessly. He'd wanted to ask for help from the Xiao family and House Kong. After all, Xinyan was from the Xiao family, the daughter-in-law of House Kong. But after hearing that his daughter had a boyfriend at school, Wang Shubin gave up on that idea. Although he didn't think that his daughter was that reckless. She was already engaged to House Kong, and yet she was still looking for a boyfriend at school? But the problem now was that it was better to believe it was true than not. If House Kong came and heard that his daughter had made Zhao Long a cuckold, they wouldn't let it go easily. It was better to wait for his daughter to come back and ask her about it. Ling Shan, on the other hand, dialed Meng Yao's number as soon as she got into the office. Meng Yao wasn't surprised that Ling Shan was calling so soon. Ling Shan, sis. Yao Yao, is there something else? Ling Shan asked. Wu Qintian has contacted the Hidden House Pai, and I heard that old Pai is coming here himself. He's going to take care of this personally. Meng Yao didn't hide anything from Ling Shan. 1. Ling Shan was from a noble house, and 2. They were familiar with each other. The hidden house Pai is going to interfere? Ling Shan didn't understand what Meng Yao was saying. Xin Yan was kidnapped. Why would the hidden house Pai be here? Weren't they Shao family support? And did they have a grudge against Lin Yi? Pai Zhishan from House Pai has already called Lin Yi his boss. Meng Yao didn't know much about the specifics either. Anyway, he's a sky class early phase. It shouldn't be a problem if he's there. That's good. Ling Shan had been thinking about asking the Supernatural Investigation Department to get involved after hearing that the guy was a practitioner, but it seemed like there was no need for that now. If even old Pai couldn't handle this, then no one else would be able to. Ling Shan hung up and walked out to speak to Wang Shubin and his wife. I've made the arrangements. If the kidnappers call again, just do what they want and do it half-heartedly. Don't be in a rush to pay the money, though. It shouldn't be much of a problem if you drag it out for today. Ling Shan didn't mention anything about hiding House Pai, and since Meng Yao didn't mention it, it meant that she didn't want Wang Shubin and his wife to know. Ah, that's great. Thank you so much. Wang Shubin said, relieved that Ling Shan had arranged everything. Ling Shan wanted to say that he didn't need to thank her, but decided against it after some thought. Scorpion thought that the job was done, and so he returned to the headquarters. He told 02 to continue watching Xin Yan, and there was no need to worry about anything happening with him here. Jiang Wen went straight to the HQ. How was it? Nothing happened, right? Nothing after that. Everything went smoothly. Scorpion said, That's good. Jiang Wen nodded. Don't mess with people like Xin Yan in the future. Nothing good will come out of anything related to Lin Yi. Yeah, it was really dangerous this time. Scorpion was scared out of his wits as well. Being chased by a random monster made his legs cramp, and he almost got into an accident. Right as my brain. You shouldn't show your face all the time. It's easy to attract trouble. Do you have anyone else you can trust? Recommend me someone to help you out. Jiang Wen said, You won't be able to handle it yourself when we start robbing noble houses. I have a cousin in my hometown. His nickname is Little Pure. He's pretty smart. Maybe we can get him to try. Scorpion said after some thought. All right, let him come, but don't bring him to me yet. Arrange some things for him to do, and we'll talk about it when he's good. Jiang Wen was still wary of strangers. He knew the guy's background, but he wouldn't give him any important tasks. All right, I'll get him to handle some unimportant things for now, Scorpion nodded. The night passed uneventfully, and the sun rose in the midst of the tranquility. Ling Shan, Wang Shubin, and Qin Lin didn't sleep the entire night, waiting for the kidnapper's call. But other than the previous call, there weren't any other calls. Scorpion was different from the other kidnappers. He was fearless, and he knew that it would take some time to prepare the ransom for Wang Shubin. It was useless for him to rush Wang Shubin. On the contrary, it would give Wang Shubin even more pressure if he didn't rush him. So, after saying goodbye to Jiang Wen's place, he went back to sleep, not worrying about Xin Yan at all. With test subject number 2 guarding her, Xin Yan wouldn't be able to escape. Even if someone tried to cause trouble, they'd have to be careful if they could leave alive. The next morning, Elder Pai and Elder Wu arrived at the villa almost at the same time. Elder Wu Gongao was the first to arrive. He had received good news from Qintian, saying that Lin Yi valued him greatly, leveling him up to Earth class early phase, giving him physical practitioner's body, refining elixir, as well as forming a connection with the hidden house Pai. This made Gongao very happy and surprised. Ever since Qintian became friends with Lin Yi, House Wu's power had risen, and Qintian's strength had risen from a mere golden class early phase to Earth class early phase. He was several levels higher than the head of House Wu, and he was a practitioner of both inner and outer body, who knew how many times stronger he was now. This time, not only did Qintian bring good news of his breakthrough, but he also received the body refining fluid from Lin Yi. Most importantly, he received one for himself. Gong Gao felt that the smartest person in the family was still his grandson. Back then, Gong Gao was very unhappy that he had made Lin Yi his boss. He felt that it was a disgrace to the family, but now it seemed that Qin Tian was very smart. In the noble house level, Lin Yi was the strongest, and in the hidden house level, there were 2 hidden houses that recognized Lin Yi as their boss. Chapter 2264. There would be a day when House Wu would rise above the 2 hidden houses. Elder Wu felt that the revival of the house depended on Qin Tian. As for Qin Tian, Gong Gao didn't suppress him as much as before. This grandson wasn't his biological grandson, but he was his nephew. This was also the reason why he didn't want to train him. Qindi's father wasn't Gong Gao's biological son, but the adopted son of Gong Gao's younger brother. Gong Gao's younger brother died young, and not many people knew about this, including Qindi and Qindi's father. Now, Gong Gao understood that House Wu was too small of a stage. To Qin Tian, it was just a home, a place to come back often. Qin Tian's goal was to follow Lin Yi and walk to the peak of martial arts, perhaps one day, reaching Sky Class, or even the legendary realm after Sky Class. Wouldn't be a dream anymore. But this dream was shattered when he saw his grandson's condition. Gong Gao was shocked to see Qin Tian lying on the bed with wounds all over his body. His grandson was already in Earth Class early phase, a practitioner of both internal and external strength. In theory, spiritual and physical practitioners of the same level wouldn't be able to hurt him, but he was injured now. What did this mean? The enemy was so strong that Gong Gao could only look up to them. Qin Tian, what's going on? How did it end up like this? Wu Gong Gao asked anxiously. The joy he had felt when he first arrived vanished in an instant. Grandpa, I'm fine. Qin Tian smiled bitterly. He didn't think that his grandpa would come at this time of all times. It really wasn't the right timing. He wanted to share his joy with his grandpa, but it turned into pain. The enemy isn't here for me and boss. It's a bit complicated, but now that boss is back, I'm fine. My injuries are nothing. Oh, Gong Gao paused, but he remembered that Qin Tian's injuries were just as bad. Didn't he show up at the noble house meeting full of vigor? It seemed that Lin Yi definitely had a way. Thinking of this, Wu Gong Gao's expression softened a lot. Since this enemy isn't coming for you, what's going on? Qin Tian was about to explain when Grandma's son knocked on the door. Mr. Wu, there's an old man and a young man outside the villa, claiming to be from the hidden house Pai. They're looking for you. What do you think? Ah, quick, invite them to my room. Qin Tian said quickly. Meng Yao and Yushu had already gone to school. Xin Yan was kidnapped, but life had to go on. Wu Qin Tian was waiting for the hidden house Pai to come, so there was no point in staying. As for Lin Yi, he still couldn't get in touch with him. The phone was still filled with the cold notification that the call could not be connected at the moment. Although the villa is different, I still remember what happened the last time I came to boss Lin Yi's villa. Zhishan sighed. In the blink of an eye, I became boss Lin Yi's follower. Actually, we, the hidden house Pai, should have made the decision back then. Zhishan remembered that Lin Yi's follower called Erguden, killing Jinwudi with one punch. He couldn't help but feel emotional. Qin Tian had made the decision to call Erguden his boss, indirectly becoming Lin Yi's follower. House Pai, on the other hand, were a few months late. Perhaps it's not too late now. Elder Pai nodded with a serious expression. House Pai had always been a cautious person, and this time, Elder Pai personally brought Zhishan out of Malaysia to help Lin Yi. This was the first time in House Pai's history that something like this had happened. Although the Hidden Families Arbitration Association only existed in name and most of the hidden families were getting restless and sending experts to stir up trouble in the secular world. Heaven-ranked powerhouses didn't dare to casually set foot in the secular world. After all, there was the restriction of the ancient plane. But this time, House Pai did not come to make trouble and stir up trouble. They came to save people. Even if the Holy Fist Palace knew about it, they would not blame them. What's more, this time House Pi came out, it was equivalent to betting on Lin Yi. In the future, they would share the glory and the loss together. If the ancient sects wanted trouble, it would be Lin Yi. With Lin Yi, House Pi was just a small character. So what if it was the ancient level? The everyday sect and the ancient House Feng crippled 2 of their disciples. What about now? Didn't they still have to suffer in silence? You too, Mr. Wu invites you. Grandma's son walked out of the villa and said to Jishan and Elder Pai, who were deep in thought, "Thank you." Elder Pai and Jihai were led into Qintian's room by Grandma Sunday. Grandma's son was just a housekeeper. But Elder Pai was very polite, not lacking in manners at all. "Brother Wu." Jishan had expected this, but he was still shocked when he saw Qintian's condition. Qintian was an Earth class early phase, about the same strength as Jishan, but he was beaten up like this. This meant that the enemy was very strong. "I'm sorry, this is the first time we've met." Qintian smiled bitterly. "But you don't have to worry about me. When boss comes back, I'll be back to normal. Let me introduce you, this is my grandpa." Since Jishan was here, Qintian treated him as one of his own. He didn't hide anything from him. In fact, Qintian was afraid that Elder Pai would hesitate and not use his full strength. Qintian's words were actually hinting to Elder Pai that even if he was injured, it didn't matter. As long as he didn't die, Lin Yi could heal him. Oh! A strange light flashed in Elder Pai's eyes as he thought of something. He felt more confident in his choice this time. Elder Pai was a hidden person, but he knew quite a bit about Lin Yi, especially since he used to be Lin Yi's enemy. He had noticed a strange phenomenon before. Lin Yi was clearly crippled, and it was obvious that he couldn't live anymore. But every time he would miraculously recover, and his strength would increase instead of decreasing. Chapter 2265. Otherwise, which practitioner would be able to smile with injuries like this? This meant that Lin Yi's medical skills were very good, and he had the ability to heal practitioners. Before, Elder Pai might have doubted it, but now that he saw Qintian, he believed it. "Elder Wu, I've heard a lot about you." Elder Pai smiled at Gong Gao, cupping his fist in greeting. "Grandpa Wu." Jishan said respectfully, "You're too kind, Elder Pai, little Pai." Gong Gao was flattered, but remembering that they were all ranked according to the seniority of Lin Yi's follower, he didn't dare be too humble. He didn't want to embarrass Lin Yi. "Elder Pai, we don't have much time. I'll treat you guys as my own." Qintian didn't want to waste time, and he didn't want to play dumb. Boss's powers are beyond your imaginations. Take me for example. I used to be a pure golden class early phase physical practitioner, but now I'm an earth class early phase physical practitioner. We're all physical practitioners, and I'm sure you don't need me to tell you the benefits. Do you, Elder Pai? Of course. Who doesn't want to be a physical practitioner? Elder Pai nodded in agreement. He'd always wanted to be a spiritual practitioner, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't even step into golden class. He had no choice but to give up. He understood that Qintian wouldn't say things without thinking. There must be a deeper meaning behind his words. If we succeed this time and Wang Xinyan's sister-in-law is saved, I think boss won't let you guys work for nothing. You too will at least become mystic late phase, peak spiritual practitioners. Qintian threw out a tempting offer. Although Lin Yi said that House Pai needed his help, this was a dangerous mission, and without money, it was hard to say if Elder Pai would give his all. What if he backed out at the critical moment? And so, Qintian said all the benefits. Wu Gonggao sat quietly at the side and listened to his grandson's words. He couldn't help but sigh. His grandson had really changed. Not only had his strength increased, but he had also become more tactful. As a physical cultivator, Wu Gonggao knew very well that no one could reject this bargaining chip. As expected, Old Pai and Pai Jishan looked at each other after Qintian's words, and their faces changed drastically. They became heated and frenzied. They came here to help Lin Yi in his hour of need, but they didn't expect Qintian to give them such a big piece of cake. This was indeed a huge temptation to them. They finally understood why Qintian had leveled up so quickly, and they understood why that trash Han Xiaopa had become an Earth-class early phase just before the Hidden House Summit. So this was all thanks to Lin Yi. If that was the case, then the returns would far exceed their expectations. They were planning to just heal Zhihai's injuries, but now... No wonder Qintian was so loyal. No wonder the Hidden House Han was so fawning over Lin Yi. This time, the Hidden House Pai wouldn't let go of this chance. At first, Pai Jishan recognized Lin Yi as his boss. It was for his own benefit, but now he was sincere. Don't worry, Wu Bro. Grandpa and I will do our best to save Boss Woman. Pai Jishan said with a fist salute. All right, I'll leave it to you then. Qintian said, let the purple thunderbolt beast take you there. It knows where Xinyan is locked up, but the guards are very strong, so it's up to you, Elder Pai. All right, Elder Pai agreed straightforwardly. They weren't surprised that the purple thunderbolt beast was with Lin Yi, since it was with Lin Yi back then. Right, that opponent, he's strong, but I feel like he's not smart enough, and his reflexes are really bad. If you fight him, Old Pai, it's best not to fight him head-on, avoiding his attacks and attacking him. I think it'll work. Qintian recalled the fight yesterday and came up with this conclusion, telling it to Old Pai in case he made a mistake. But this kidnapper gave him a familiar feeling, as if he'd seen him somewhere before, but he couldn't remember. Oh, I'll be careful. Old Pai nodded and said, but when Pai Jishan and Elder Pai saw the purple thunderbolt beast, they froze. Wasn't this guy a yellow-class spirit beast? When did it become a mystic? And a mystic late phase. Peek at that? Could it be that Lin Yi could not only level up people but also spirit beasts? What kind of scary concept was that? Old Pai and Pai Jishan looked at each other again. They could see the shock in each other's eyes. Hidden House Han. It wasn't luck that they were able to stand out in the Hidden House Summit. Elder Pai shook his head, a bitter smile on his face. This time, we've all been dragged into this together. This Lin Yi is probably toying with us. Yeah, it's all thanks to Zhihai, or else we wouldn't have been able to find such a strong boss. Jishan nodded. But it's not too late now. Our Hidden House Pai still has a chance. The purple thunderbolt beast didn't have any complaints about carrying Jishan and Elder Pai on its back. It was a strong, ancient spirit beast, but this was a critical time. It had to save its contracted master's woman, the mistress. How could it not be proactive? A woo roar. The purple thunderbolt beast came to the abandoned farm and roared softly, indicating that it had arrived. Elder Pai and Pai Jishan got off the purple thunderbolt beast. This was the first time they felt the speed of the wind. From the villa to this place, it only took a blink of an eye. Jishan, follow behind me later on the purple thunderbolt beast. I'll deal with that master, and you and the purple thunderbolt beast will go save Miss Wang. If that master attacks you, get on the purple thunderbolt beast and run. Don't fight him head-on. Elder Pai sighed and came up with a plan. Okay, I understand. Jishan didn't try to show off. Qintian was already heavily injured. How could he fight the enemy head-on? Chapter 2266. But what surprised them was that there was no one guarding the entrance, and there didn't seem to be any sounds coming from inside. It was eerily quiet. Don't tell me they moved to another location? Pai Jishan looked at the empty and quiet farm and asked curiously, "Let's keep looking." Elder Pai said without batting an eyelid. The two walked deeper into the farm, but as soon as they turned the corner, they stopped, because they saw a person, a burly man in black, sitting at the door of a bungalow. He was just sitting there with a golden saber. This person, upon seeing Jishan and Elder Pai, suddenly had a flash of light in his lifeless eyes. He stood up, and without a word he threw a punch at Jishan. Jishan received his grandpa's orders and didn't try to be brave. He patted the purple lightning beast, dodging the man's attack. From what Pai Jishan could tell, the person in the house behind the black-clothed man should be Wang Xinyan. He'd leave the black-clothed man to his grandpa, and Pai Jishan and the purple thunderbolt beast quickly made their way to the door. The man saw Jishan disappear, but he didn't chase after him. Instead, he turned his fist and threw a punch at Elder Pai. Elder Pai was already wary of the black-clothed man, and this guy changed his moves at the last minute. It was impossible for him to hit Elder Pai. Elder Pai easily circled to the black-clothed man's side, and with a punch, the black-clothed man staggered and spat out a mouthful of blood. Test Subject 02 could, in theory, take 10 hits from a Sky Class Early Phase Master, but they were both Sky Class Early Phase Masters, and their strengths weren't the same. Elder Pai was an expert in fists, and his punches were powerful, but his other skills weren't as good. But this man took a punch from Elder Pai head-on, and it was much stronger than a normal Sky Class Early Phase Master's punch. He didn't have any chi to protect his body, and so he spat out a mouthful of blood, suffering serious internal injuries. Of course, the black-clothed man was just a puppet. He didn't have his own thoughts and didn't know pain. Although Old Man Pai's punch caused great damage to him, he didn't seem to feel it at all. After being hit, he continued to punch Old Man Pai. Bam! Old Pai couldn't dodge in time and got punched by the man in black. Buffed! Elder Pai's blood was boiling, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His internal organs were also injured. It wasn't that Elder Pai was careless. It was just that he didn't expect his opponent to be so unpredictable. Usually, in a duel between masters, when one side was hit, he or she would have to dodge first to recuperate. Otherwise, the injury would be more severe, unless it was a fight to the death. But at the heaven rank, unless it was a life and death enmity, who would truly go all out. That was why Old Pai didn't expect the man in black to be able to retaliate after taking a punch from him. However, Old Pai was also beaten up. He punched again, directly hitting the man in black's head. This time, the man in black's injury was more severe. He staggered and fell, but it gave Old Pai enough time to retreat. Old Pai also saw through the man in black style. He was good at punching and kicking, but he was all brawn and no brains. He was a complete mess. Moreover, this person gave Old Pai a very strange feeling. There was an indescribable sense of déjà vu. The black-clothed man fell down, and Elder Pai naturally wouldn't let him go. He punched him again, breaking both of his arms. Then he wanted to break both of his legs before he could get up. But what Elder Pai didn't expect was that the black-clothed man didn't even care about his shoulder blades being broken. He kicked Elder Pai, sending him flying away. This kind of situation where he wasn't afraid of pain and could still fight back as if nothing happened. Old Pai had never heard of such a situation before. Wasn't this too strange? In this kind of situation, if it was someone else, they would most likely scream and dodge first. But this person in front of him was completely different. What happened next made Old Pai even more confused. After the man in black got up from the ground, he swung his arms that he couldn't lift anymore and rushed towards Old Pai. If his arms couldn't do it, he could use his legs. When he got close to Old Pai, the man in black lifted his leg and kicked. Old Pai was speechless. How was this a master? He was simply a member of a suicide squad. He really dared to die. However, cursing was just cursing. Old Man Pai endured the internal injury from the kick and punched the man in black's leg with his fist. Old Pai only took a punch and a kick, but his injuries weren't light. He was a Sky Class Early Phase, but he didn't have chi to protect his body, and he didn't practice Golden Bell Shield either. His defense was stronger than Qintian's, but he wasn't as strong as a Sky Class of the same level. And so, this injury greatly reduced his mobility. He couldn't dodge, so he could only use his fist to meet the man's attack head-on. Old Pi used all the strength in his body for this punch. He only hoped that he could finish off the man in front of him as soon as possible, even if he got hurt. Boom! Both sides clashed fiercely. One side charged forward without fear of death, while the other side used all of his trump cards. When the two collided, although there was no earth-shattering explosion of energy that came from a battle between internal martial arts masters, it still brought about a thunderous sound. The man in black was sent flying, and Old Pi also took a few steps back before falling on his, but the man's leg wasn't hard, and it wasn't the kind of physical practitioner who trained their body to the extreme. It was just a normal kick, and even Old Pi heard the sound of the man's bones breaking. He couldn't understand why the man in black had so much strength, and it didn't seem like he was in any pain at all. Did the injury have nothing to do with him? Old Pi's fist wasn't crippled, but the recoil still damaged his meridians. Luckily, he was a physical practitioner, and the damage to his meridians wasn't that big of an impact. But if he didn't treat it, it would affect his speed and strength in the future. Chapter 2267. The black-clothed man struggled on the ground. Although Old Pi was injured, he wouldn't let go of this opportunity to beat the man up. He went up and punched the man's other leg, causing him to lose his ability to attack. At the same time, Pi Jishan rode on the purple electric tempest beast and arrived at the door of the bungalow. Although the bungalow had a lock, it was useless to Pi Jishan. With one punch, the lock broke, and he pushed the door open. Xinyan's mouth was sealed, and she was tied to the stool. She was shocked by the sudden turn of events, and looked at the stranger in front of her in fear. She hadn't seen Pai Jishan before, and she thought that he was with the kidnappers, trying to harm her. But Pai Jishan opened his mouth, and that calmed Xinyan's heart down instantly. "Sister-in-law, I'm Boss Lin Yi's follower, Pai Jishan. I'm here to save you," Pai Jishan said. Although Pai Jishan's way of addressing her made Xinyan blush, she couldn't care less at a time like this. As for the rope on Xinyan's body, Pai Jishan broke it with a light tug, and Xinyan tore off the seal on her mouth. "Thank you." "Don't say so much. We're supposed to help our boss." Pai Jishan waved his hand. Since he had decided that Lin Yi was their boss, he wouldn't be arrogant anymore. He pointed at the purple lightning beast. "You ride the beast first. I'll go see my grandpa." "All right." Xinyan nodded. She recognized the purple thunderbolt beast. That day, Qintian rode it to chase after her. Xinyan saw it clearly from the car, but Qintian and the purple thunderbolt beast weren't a match for the black-clothed man, and that worried her a little. She didn't think that one day later, Lin Yi's stronger man would come to save her. Pai Jishan came out of the house and saw that his grandpa was injured, but the black-clothed man was taken care of. He let out a sigh of relief. "Grandpa, are you all right?" "I'm fine. Let's leave this place. The enemy is too strange." Elder Pai frowned. "We can't stay here for long. If more enemies like this come, we'll die here." Pai Jishan nodded. He was very interested in finding the mastermind, but since Elder Pai said so, it meant that the enemy was too strong. It was best to leave as soon as possible. Since the black-clothed man was disabled, it'd be better to bring him back to the police for investigation. He shouldn't get himself involved. Saving Xinyan was the most important thing right now. The purple electric tempest beast's body was relatively large, so it was not too much to carry 4 people. It was also very spacious. Soon, the purple electric tempest beast returned to the villa. Qintian didn't expect Old Pai to finish the fight so quickly. He was about to praise him when he saw the look on Old Pai's face. He knew that he was heavily injured as well. This was quite a coincidence. If it was an ordinary heaven rank initial phase internal chi master, he might not have been able to deal with test subject number 2 so easily. After all, this guy could withstand 10 full blows from a heaven rank initial phase internal Chi master. 10 strikes all at once. Wasn't that easy? But Elder Pai was a physical practitioner, and he was an expert in punches. His punches were very strong, and even if they weren't as strong as Air Gooden, they were still strong enough to split a mountain. He took care of the second test subject with just a few punches, but the price he paid was quite high. If it was a Sky class early phase spiritual practitioner, they wouldn't be so heavily injured. After all, spiritual practitioners had Chi protection, but Elder Pai didn't. When Jiang Wen was creating the test subject, he had neglected the factor of physical practitioners. Otherwise, things wouldn't have been so easy to solve. My grandpa's injured too. Zishan smiled bitterly. We defeated the enemy and captured him, but it's not a complete victory. It's a Pyrrhic victory. It's fine. As long as he's not dead, boss will find a way. Xintian saw that Pai Zishan and Elder Pai came back alive, so he didn't mind anymore. He grinned. Why don't you guys stay here and wait for boss to come back? If that's the case, then we'll be troubling you. Zishan wanted to do that. 1. Elder Pai needed to rest, and 2. He could bring Zhihai over to wait for Lin Yi to come back. Now that House Pai had saved his wife, he couldn't just keep pushing Zhihai away, could he? Right. Woo! What do we do with the kidnappers? Elder Pai asked. Let the police. It's not good to tell the public about what you did. Xintian said. All right. Old Pai nodded. This was the safest way to hide the fact that House Pai's interference in the common world had already violated the agreement between the Hidden House Council and the Ancient Society. While it was done without anyone noticing, it was still better to keep a low profile. Thank you. Thank you, Xinyan said, finally able to relax after seeing Xintian in Mingyao's villa. She quickly thanked Pai Zishan and Elder Pai for saving her. You're welcome. Zishan waved his hand. Then I'll have to trouble you to call the police, Tian Bro. I'll help Grandpa get some rest first. I won't be showing myself in a bit. All right. Xintian nodded, asking Grandma-san to prepare a room for Zishan and Elder Pai. After that, Xintian noticed that Xinyan was still standing there. Sister-in-law, have a seat. Oh. Xinyan was a little embarrassed at how Xintian addressed her, but it wasn't a good time to argue about it. Seeing that Xinyan didn't like to talk, Xintian didn't say much and called Lingshan. Wu Xintian. Lingshan had Xintian's number, so she knew it was him the moment she picked up. Yes, it's me. Xinyan's been saved, and the kidnappers have been caught, but House Pai is involved, so it's better to keep a low profile. Xintian said. So, bring some people here to take them away, and it'll be your credit. Chapter 2268. Lingshan, however, didn't decline the offer. She'd just been transferred to Donghai, and if she wanted to establish herself here, she'd have to show some impressive achievements. Wu Xintian, on the other hand, knew how to pick the right time. All right, I'll bring my men over right away. Why don't you do it yourself? Xintian reminded. It's fine. It's my subordinate from Songshan, Lu Wangli. It'll be fine, Lingshan said. Lu Wangli knew about Lingshan's relationship with Lin Yi, and he'd been promoted to vice captain with Lingshan this time. He'd been a squadron captain before, after all. All right, Xintian nodded. After calling Lingshan, Xintian called the miss, telling her that Xinyan was safe and that there was no need to worry. The miss and Shu breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed like House Pai was reliable after all. But at the same time, Scorpion, who went to the abandoned farm to deliver food, was shocked. Test subject 02 was gone, and so was Xinyan. There were traces of a fight, and there were traces of blood as well. The lock of the door had been broken with brute force, and the rope binding Xinyan had been broken with brute force as well. This proved that there had been a fierce fight here, but test subject 02 wasn't a match for them. She was nowhere to be found. This situation made Scorpion jump, but he didn't dare stay any longer. He knew how strong the test subject was. Even Wu Qintian and the purple thunderbolt beast weren't a match for him. The person who could defeat him and save Xinyan was definitely not an ordinary person. Scorpion wasn't a practitioner, but even if he was, he wouldn't dare stay any longer. He didn't want that person to come back and cause trouble for him. Scorpion dialed Jiang Wen's number as he drove away. "Scorpion, how is it?" Jiang Wen didn't know that something had happened. "When bro, it's bad. Xinyan was rescued and test subject 02 is nowhere to be found. But there are signs of a fight and blood." Scorpion said urgently. "What?" Jiang Wen jumped in shock. "You saved him? Then where are you? Come back, don't stay." "I've already left." Scorpion said, "I wouldn't dare stay in a situation like this. It's good that you're back." Jiang Wen sighed. He didn't expect things to turn out this way. But Lin Yi wasn't home, so who saved Xinyan? Who could be a match for test subject 02? Ling Shan was about to call for a meeting to discuss the kidnapping when she received Qintian's call. She quickly brought Lu Wanli to Lin Yi's villa. This was the first time Ling Shan had come to Lin Yi's villa in Donghai, and Lu Wanli had gotten to know what had happened along the way. Lin Yi was the one who'd done it again? This time, Lin Yi wasn't here and Lin Yi wasn't here. Lu Wanli didn't say much, however, and went straight to the police car with test subject number 2. Xinyan and Ling Shan, on the other hand, got into the other car and drove back to the police station. Wang Zibin and Qinlin, naturally, thanked Ling Shan profusely after seeing their daughter return safely. Ling Shan was a little embarrassed, but Qintian had told her not to tell anyone about House Pie, so Xinyan didn't say much, only saying that Ling Shan was the one who saved her. In the resting room, Wang Zibin and Qinlin talked to their daughter, while Ling Shan sent the suspect to the hospital with the other officers. They were waiting for him to wake up and give his statement. "Yan Yan, I heard you found a boyfriend at school?" After asking about Yan Yan's well-being, Xiao Qinlin asked the question she was most concerned about. I. Xinyan's face changed as she blushed. She didn't expect her mother to ask this. Qinlin saw the change in her daughter's face, and her expression changed as well. "So it's true." I'm not really a boyfriend. I'm just a classmate I'm pretty close with." Xinyan was a little embarrassed, as if she'd been caught doing something bad. "Just a classmate you're pretty close with?" Qinlin didn't believe her. "There was a girl called Meng Yao who came. Did she say that?" Xinyan didn't expect Meng Yao to be the one to leak this out. She pursed her lips helplessly, not knowing how to explain herself. "Yan Yan, you're engaged. You're different from other people. If House Kong finds out, we won't be able to explain ourselves." Qinlin said worriedly, remembering how she'd been locked up by the Xiao family brothers and how they'd used Wang Zibin's company as a threat. "All right, don't ask any more." Wang Zibin frowned and cut Qinlin off. "I didn't think much of that House Kang's kid. If Yan Yan has her own choice, then I'll give up the company. I've thought it through and I've had enough, especially with the kidnapping this time. The recovery of my lost daughter, it made me understand something. Nothing is more important than my daughter. I can give up on the company, and I can take out the 10 million that the kidnappers want with my entire fortune. So, let's not force Yan Yan too much. It's fine as long as she likes it. But my family and House Kong, I'm afraid that they'll do something out of line. They're practitioners, after all, and they have powerful backers behind them." Qinlin didn't have a choice. She was afraid that they'd do something out of line if she rejected the engagement. "That's—" Wang Zibin paused as he thought of the crux of the matter. He couldn't help but sigh, lost in thought. "Mom, Dad, don't argue. I know what I'm doing." Xinyan sighed helplessly as she looked at her parents' troubled expressions. The atmosphere in the resting room became heavy and strange. Wang Zibin and Qinlin looked at their daughter, sighing with guilt. Qinlin, especially, wasn't happy with what her brothers were doing, but there was nothing she could do. Xinyan's heart was a mess. Her parents had found out about her and Lin Yi after all. What should she do? Should she let nature take its course, or should she draw a line with Lin Yi? But Xin Yan knew that she and Lin Yi weren't taking their relationship any further, and she didn't want to change her lifestyle for a random fiancé. Plus, she didn't like this fiancé at all. Xin Yan couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. Chapter 2269. Lingshan's crime-solving skills surprised her new colleagues. They had no clue at all about this kidnapping case, but Lingshan had gone out, and not only did she rescue the hostages, she'd even caught the kidnappers. The kidnappers looked a little pitiful, but he deserved what he got. What depressed them was that the kidnappers' eyes were lifeless, and he didn't say anything. It was as if he didn't understand her at all. Lingshan had thought that he'd been beaten senseless by Old Pai, but after the doctor's examination, that wasn't the case. An unknown drug had been injected into the kidnapper's body, and the kidnapper's brain had been destroyed as well. To put it bluntly, this person was an idiot. If it weren't for the fact that he'd woken up with a cast on his arms and legs and had broken the metal bed with one punch, everyone would have suspected that he was the kidnapper. But this person's strength and destructive power made people believe in how scary he was. This familiar situation reminded Lingshan of a case in Songshan, the bank robbery case with the fake Lin Yi. Back then, the fake Lin Yi was like this as well. Lingshan didn't dare tarry, and quickly reported it to Huaijuan. Donghai's situation came to an end for now. In the middle of the Wulonghout Mountains, Lin Yi, Sun Jingyi, and Skybolt Pig were caught in a huge net that fell from the sky. Not only did the net tighten rapidly, not giving Lin Yi any chance to escape, but they were also hung up in the air. And so, Lin Yi, Sun Jingyi, and Skybolt Pig were all suspended in the air. Lin Yi subconsciously wanted to use his hands to tear the net apart, but it was extremely sturdy and Lin Yi couldn't break it with his bare hands at all. In the next moment, Lin Yi saw who they were, but these couldn't be considered people. They were giant spiders. Speaking of spiders, many people would associate it with a more terrifying appearance. However, these spiders didn't look scary. Instead, they were somewhat cute. They were like the chibi version of spiders in comics. The color patterns on their bodies were also very beautiful. It was similar to the Skybolt Pig. Although the Skybolt Pig was a pig, it didn't look as stupid as a pig. Instead, it looked very cute. Needless to say, Lin Yi knew that these spiders were probably some kind of ancient spiritual beasts. Maybe they were ancient spiders. In a place like the Wulonghout mountain range with abundant spiritual energy, it was normal for there to be more ancient spiritual beasts. If it was an ordinary mountain range, there probably wouldn't be a single ancient spiritual beast. You guys are ancient spiritual beasts, right? Why did you capture us? After Lin Yi roughly confirmed the identity of these spiders, he didn't show any hostility. Instead, he used a very friendly tone to talk to them. This was because Lin Yi knew that they should be able to understand his words. As expected, after the spiders heard Lin Yi's words, they looked at each other, but none of them answered Lin Yi's words. Perhaps it was because they were too weak to speak the human language, or perhaps they could speak but didn't want to say it. However, the first possibility was more likely. Because Lin Yi took a look, he realized that there were 2 mystic spiders and the rest were golden spiders. They shouldn't be able to speak the human language. These spiders ignored Lin Yi. Instead, they dragged Lin Yi, Sun Jingyi, and the Skybolt Pig's big net and quickly moved towards a direction. Lin Yi looked at the Skybolt Pig and signaled it to communicate with these spiders. Squeak, squeak. The Skybolt Pig repeated what Lin Yi said before in the spiritual beast language. At first, these spiders didn't pay attention to the Skybolt Pig. However, when they suddenly heard the Skybolt Pig speaking the spiritual beast language, one of the spiders looked at the Skybolt Pig in the big net in surprise. However, it didn't reply and continued to move forward with the big net. Seeing that no spiders replied to it, the Skybolt Pig felt a little helpless. He looked at Lin Yi and shook his head. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. It seemed that these spiders were most likely the big fire lion's enemies. But why did these spiders want to capture him? Could it be that they knew that he was friends with the big fire lions? Or was it because he accidentally trespassed into their territory? If it was the latter, then it should be easier to resolve. These spiders were probably trying to capture them back to their nest. As Lin Yi expected, these spiders brought Lin Yi and the others to a naturally formed cave. There were many spider spiritual beasts patrolling the vicinity of the cave. Lin Yi took a look and saw that they were around the yellow rank. There were also some mystic rank, but only a few of them. However, there was a big spider inside the cave that attracted Lin Yi's attention. A heaven rank spiritual beast was similar to the big fire lion. Sure enough, if they weren't of the same rank, how could they be opponents? Since it was a heaven rank spiritual beast, it should be able to speak the human language, just like the big fire lion. Therefore, Lin Yi didn't need the skybolt pig to translate for him. The big net was opened, and Lin Yi and the others were placed on the ground. Lin Yi then climbed out of the big net. He looked a little embarrassed, but facing a heaven rank spiritual beast clan, there was nothing to be ashamed of. You are the leader of these spiritual beasts, right? I know you can understand me and communicate with me. Lin Yi didn't panic. He calmly stood up and looked at the biggest heaven rank spider. What is your purpose for coming to my territory? A human cultivator. The heaven rank spider didn't answer Lin Yi's question. Instead, it directly asked a question. But this also indirectly answered Lin Yi's question, which was that it could speak the human language. Entered by mistake. Even if I said so, you wouldn't believe me. Lin Yi saw the ridicule in the heaven rank spider's eyes and immediately changed his tone. He simply told the truth. I was avoiding the pursuit of my enemies and had no choice but to take this path down the mountain. I can't take the normal path anymore. How can I believe you? The heaven rank spider asked after hearing Lin Yi's words. With our strength, would you believe me if I said that we came to look for trouble? Lin Yi smiled bitterly and shrugged his shoulders. Normally I wouldn't believe you, but now is a special time. I can't help but doubt your purpose for coming here, the heaven rank spider said. Moreover, I smell a familiar aura from your body. What is your relationship with the Fire Lion clan? You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.